All right, mic check, good. So I'm Ceron, CWB Association Welding Podcast. Today we have a really cool guest, Welding Podcast.
The show is about to begin.
All right, so I guess today, for the people that are listening, we got the super mega collab. I've been teasing this actually on Instagram. So, we got Jason from Arc Junkies. We got Kevin from the Welding Business Owners Podcast, right? I got that right?
You got it.
Right, and I'm here from the association. And this was Kevin's idea. So, Kevin, thanks for coming up with this. I think this is and this came up over beers at FabTech like a year and a half ago.
Yeah. Well, thanks for talking to me at FabTech, first of all. And it was awesome meeting you guys there. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. So, yeah, man, let's have at it.
Yeah, we kind of teased the idea. It all developed at the Hard Rock Live there.
Yep.
That's where all the best ideas happen.
FabTech.
Yeah.
FabTech with a pint.
I mean, what other kind of ideas are there actually?
Usually there's a really expensive ideas that happen at the FabTech.
Well, it depends. If you're there on the purchasing side, I'm glad I'm not on that side anymore, to tell you the truth, because it's like pretty nuts when you look at, $1 million pieces of equipment. And I know like Kevin, you're still deep into the fab world, building world. You got your company going. And I mean, that's a big part of what you do now for a living is your podcast is tied into your company, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it would be intimidating for me to walk in as a fresh business owner to like a place like FabTech and be like, oh my God, this machine could save me so much money, or I could do all this. It's only $3 million. Like,
it's not really intimidating. It's more, I say FabTech it re-energizes my batteries. All year you're grinding it out, you're pushing, you're doing it hard, and you go to FabTech and you're like, it shows you what can be. We're a smaller shop. We have anywhere between 3 and 5 guys all the time, and going there and seeing the even $150,000 machine that, man, that's gonna save me so much time. And the last couple of years, I get closer and closer to like, that's not so far of a dream anymore. That's reality. Mm-hmm. So going there, I think it helps if you go there as a business owner to have a plan, and because it is really overwhelming. Last year wasn't that great, but compared to the 2 years previous, it was overwhelming before. Well, 2 years as in like
pre-COVID,
not pre-COVID. Yeah. There's a lot to go there. It's great to be able to play with the machines, see and touch things that you wouldn't otherwise be able to see. I'm a very hands-on person. So going there and learning about all the features it has and seeing the features is a lot different than reading in a brochure or talking to a sales rep who comes to your shop,
Yeah, like anytime I got to make an equipment purchase, I want to get my hands on it and kind of how much space is this going to take up? What, can I do this with it? And kind of walk through the paces. And it's hard to do that, like Max was saying, from a brochure, mm-hmm. Or, like a picture on the internet. That's why I love when they put videos. Like we were buying an iron worker for the school, and I was able to, check out the video and be like, oh, okay, kind of get to roll through, walk through some of the forms and features of the equipment and stuff. But there's nothing that beats being able to go in there and put your hands on it, because most of these places, they don't have demo rooms or showrooms. So FabTech's really the only place you're going to get to go to try out some of this new equipment.
I like,
and if they do, you have to travel across the country mm-hmm. to get it. 2 years ago, we were looking at JD Square tables, like plasma tables, and it was super handy to be able to go there, talk to Bob from JD Square, see them run stuff on the table, show you how the things fit on there, run through all the features live right there, because the only other way to do that is to fly or drive down to Johnson City, Tennessee to see that, Well,
that's what I was going to say. It's like more Wild West, right? So if you got the sales rep coming into your shop, he's in a safe zone. It's just him. And he can be like, we're the best this, we're the best that, we're the best this. And every salesperson has got, it's their job. They're going to do that. When you go to a place like FabTech or one of the bigger conferences, they're all in the same room. So it's like,
yeah,
they're like, we're the best at. It's like, oh, really? That guy's right there. Let me go ask him. Are you actually? Because that guy said you're not. So show me. right? So show me.
Yep.
Like,
prove
because
it.
here we are. They're there. They're there. Here's your 7 competitors in the same room. Let's see what the deal is. And if you're not the best at it, that's not going to bury the deal. But then what are you the best at? Because everyone's got their high points and their low. No one's going to be awesome at everything, right? So like, okay, you're faster than them. Okay, cool. But are you more precise? Okay, I'll take slower for more precise. Deal. Or I'll take less precise and slower for less money. Deal. Like, I mean, you can play those games, right?
Yeah, that was actually the reason why I bought my Scotchman Ironworker, because Scotchman was there, Piranha was there, was it Geika that was there, and I just went to each one. I was like, Sunrise, which was like a Chinese import. I'm like, why are you better than the rest? And they can walk you through it. They can show you. They can say, all right, well, we have this option that they don't have, or this does something that theirs doesn't have, and you can like spend the afternoon going back and forth and be like, well, this guy said they have this, so what do you have to rebut that?
And they had this really cool sticker. Like, check out the sticker, dude. Like, what do you got?
They gave me a backpack. Where's your backpack?
I got a backpack and a koozie.
Hey, I think you got a CWB backpack, Jason, didn't you?
I got a CWB backpack, and I'll tell you what, man, it has a charger. It's got a portable charger in the bag. Like, I mean, that's pretty sick. I was like, why is there a cable running through this bag? And I was like, oh, damn, like the CWB knows how to pass out some swag, man. I'll tell you.
Hell yeah, man.
Come on, man. Seriously.
Well, where are you? Where are you coming up to FabTech Canada? Hey, man, I already asked Jason. You come June 13th to 15th in Canada. We got FabTech Canada in tandem with our biggest conference of the year, which is CanWeld. So there's my shameless plug for June 13th to 15th up here in Toronto Congress Center. I got the rooms booked, and if you're a CWB member, I got a separate room booked, and we got super like under $100 a night rooms. Stephanie Hoffman's coming up. I got her on the panel.
Nice.
It's the 13th to the 15th?
Yeah.
Oh,
June.
I've got the dates marked down. I'm also contemplating going to Skills USA in Atlanta, Georgia. So I'd probably have to. And I think that runs like the 16th.
Yeah, Skills is all in that June timeframe because it lines up with the end of the school year.
Yeah, I'd have to like hit up CanWeld and then like just fly straight from Canada right into Atlanta.
I mean, that's doable.
I need an assistant, man. Like this stuff's getting out of hand.
Oh man, you know what? I got Daniela. I call her, now her title is podcast manager. So she's like literally sets up most of the stuff, and she sends out the swag, and she does all this stuff, which is so helpful. I don't know how you guys do it without it.
Okay, no, Skills is 20th through the 24th. I still need an assistant though. I can come back for a week and then bounce back out.
Mm-hmm.
What I need, I just need a full-time job that'll pay me while I do all this stuff.
Well,
I think that's the biggest kicker.
Get in with the AWS. Can't they do something with you?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know if they'd fly me up into Canada. Well, because I guess it's Canadian FabTechs. I mean, it's FabTechs.
No, they're up here. They're up here. Matt Rubin, all those guys, they're all up here.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I'll drop a line to them. Be like, hey, what do you guys think about sending me up to Canada, eh?
Yeah. Like, I mean, or Hypertherm. Didn't Hypertherm give you a good push for FabTech USA?
No, we did. I did some stuff with them, but it wasn't like I recorded some audio at their show, but like they're not really a sponsor or partner or anything.
Okay, yeah, because I know that they're up here, and I poach a lot of guests from them because they got a lot of influencers on their list, right? So they're a good company to team up with.
Yeah.
Kevin's just like taking notes. He's like, who to poach?
I think that'd be cool. I've never been into Canada. Like I've always wanted to go up there. Like I used to live in northeastern Ohio, and like my parents would always go off to like Niagara Falls, and Canada's just on the other side of the spillway, and but I've never made it across.
Well, in my podcasts with like the Netflix team there was like Frank and Louis and Ray and Ivan, and camping came up in like all our conversations because it was like dead of winter and we're all talking about dreaming of summer, right? And I go camping every summer up north to like a foresty part of my province, and I told them all, I'm booking it. I think March 1st, I'm allowed to book it. I'm booking a week up there. And they all said, well, let us know, and we'll see if we can get people up into Canada to go camping. So I'm going to send you guys the link and the invite. And, hey, if you guys can find a way to take a holiday up in Canada, I'll show you guys around. I'll have my old junky boat out there. We'll try not to sink it, but it's been sank before. So it'll be...
I can swim.
Yeah, it's not that deep of a lake. Lots of fishing though.
Just get some Flex Seal, put it on there. We'll be all
There
right.
you go. Just slapping Flex Seal all over the boat.
Well, the last Flex Seal commercial guy was flying in the sky. It's like, what's going on? This guy's flying now.
Yeah, I don't know if I trust that stuff that much. If the boat sinks, I can swim, but I can't grow a set of wings if plane falls apart in midair.
Wait.
I was walking through the shop last week, and I look on our rack that has like all the paints and stuff, and I see a can of Flex Seal. I'm like, who the heck bought this? Really? Why is this even in our shop? Come on.
I've heard it actually freaking works though.
It
Really?
does, dude. It's just rubber and epoxy. That's all it is. It's rubber and epoxy. And you know what? You can buy it in tubes or you can buy it in a spray can. Whatever. It works.
I got to try some of this stuff out. Like I've seen other people using it, and I'm like, yeah, I just don't know, man. It seems like snake oil to me.
The thing that about it that doesn't work great is like if you get the spray can, after the first time you use it, it's pretty much done. Because then the little sprayer doohickey on the top gets all gummed up, and then it's basically done, right?
I'm sure there's instructions on how to properly store it after first use. If you read
Well,
the can.
I'm sure there is, but they're in some
Who
type
reads
of
the can?
writing, like.
Oh yeah, I need pictures.
All right, so
First of all, who reads the can? And second of all, if it says "as seen on TV" on the can, that loses all credibility right there.
well, aren't we as seen on TV technically?
I don't have the sticker. Do you have the sticker?
I've never been on TV.
As if you haven't been on TV.
I've been on the news.
Florida man.
Yeah.
Florida man news.
Florida man bites gator.
Yeah, there we go. These are my people. This is what I have to live with.
Yeah, I love those.
The funny thing
searches.
is everybody gives all kinds of flack to Florida man, but 90% of the time you find out the guy's from Pennsylvania or Canada originally. And, he just moved to Florida because
you
he's
can't
tired of
throw
the winter.
Canada in
And
with
he comes down here and
Pennsylvania.
bites an alligator.
He goes with his people though.
Yeah,
So
none of these are freaking like I'm an import too, man. I'm from Ohio, so. But none of these people are actually native.
So, in terms of podcasts, people are going to be wondering why we're doing this. And I mean, aside from the awesomeness of awesome, Jason, you got 2 podcasts going now. We were talking about that before the show. You're nuts, man. 2 a week. What's the second one? It's just a tip. Is that what it's called? JTT?
Yeah, it's just a tip Tuesday. So I was like, I want to do like short form episode because like with a lot of podcasts, and it's got definitely a catchy title. Don't look that title up on Spotify. Just
everyone knows.
Just find it under Arc Junkies. It's just regular episodes is right there hosted on that channel. But I wanted to put out like more technical information because a lot of times, when I get on an episode with a guest, I kind of have an idea of which direction I want to go with it. But the conversation doesn't necessarily always go in that direction. So sometimes I want to get a little bit more deeper in the weeds, and then we get off on a tangent. It's like, man, that'd be really good information to get out there. And if I can't do it through a natural conversation, like why not segment it up into small chunks and kind of release that as a secondary episode? So they're like smaller bite-sized episodes that comes out every Tuesday. That, and I'm trying to like essentially at the end of the day, build a brand and stuff. So the more content I can push, the more relevant that the podcast becomes. The more people it reaches, the better it's going to be.
I got an idea for you. All right. I listened to a few of the Just a Tip episodes and I loved them, but they're content heavy. I almost needed like a notepad and a pen to write down some of the stuff they're talking about because it was great. You should do a cheat sheet that comes out after the episode with the release.
Once again, I need an assistant.
Be like on last week's episode, we talked about constant voltage settings for blah, blah, blah. And, and then you could have a cheat sheet of what was taught. It could be like a learning resource for instructors and stuff.
Yeah. So a lot of times what I'll do is, especially if I talk about a specific reference manual or a document, or, I'll tell people where they can find it. And then I'll list in the show notes, so like if you open up your podcast app and hit the notes button or more, in the show description is where I list a lot of the resources, and I try to hyperlink everything. But some of the stuff, like people reach out to me and be like, hey, where can I find that book? And it's like, you get a faster response if you just type that same message into Google. It's going to pop up. It's an amazing tool. I know it's fresh out of the box. It's a brand new service, but a lot of times you can just type in the name of a resource and it is boom, it'll take you right to it.
Yeah, but they're probably in Florida. They're like, I've been typing this into my Gator for the last 4 hours. It's not working.
I can't get this to work on my flip phone.
Kevin, what's going on with your podcast, man? What are the episodes? What's going on? What's in your world?
So mine's a little bit of a different format. I like to just talk with guys who are in the industry, sit down and pick their brain about things. I sometimes have questions. Sometimes most of the time, I just let the conversation flow. Really, it was spawned from being at FabTech. Like, I really love the conversations. That's half the reason why I go to FabTech, is for the conversations. And I wanted to take those conversations that we had and put them out there for everybody. So we do 30, 35, 40-minute episodes. But the conversation, it's a continuation of a 2, 3, 4 hour long conversation. So we try to put it out every 2 weeks. The running joke is that, on my intro, it says, my podcasts are late, but my bids are on time, because first off, I am a business owner. Second off, I am the podcaster. So sometimes they're not out on time. I edit my stuff at like 5 o'clock in the morning before I take my son to school. So sometimes it works out. And so we're trying to grow that a little bit. It's really just for fun right now. I just want to put it out there for other people to get inspired. I feel like, it's funny because with hiring guys in our industry, I feel like everybody has always had the thought of going out and starting their own business. Like, I don't think I've ever met a welder who never thought about going out on their own. But there's so many unknowns. There's so many. Where do I start? How do I price? How do I bill? I don't know if there's videos, Jason. I've watched a bunch of your videos online, stuff like that. But hearing it from other people who are out there doing it every day, the grind, the sucky parts of business, the awesome parts of business, it's just really, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of value to it for guys who are looking to make the jump. And that's, partially why I do it too. So.
Well, I think pretty much every welder that's out there has a small business. I mean, they started off, it may not be a legit business, but like, the garage is usually open and people are stopping by like, hey, can you weld this up for me? Like whether you're, charging money or beer or whatever the case may be, everybody's got like a small business, because welding's something that everybody wants, everybody needs done. As soon as somebody finds out you're a welder, they're like, oh man, can you weld this up for me? So, I mean, there's a natural progression in there. And then, I mean, it's a logical step, especially if you don't like working for somebody else, or you need side income, or you want to do a side hustle. Like, welding is something very easy to start your own business. I mean, I've had students that, within 2 years of graduating a program, they've got a rig truck and they're out there bidding work and doing jobs and stuff like that. Just, spending, 40 weeks to a year in a school just to learn the process and how to do it, and then going out and get some training in the industry. And then, boom, next thing you know, they're lined out. They're doing their own jobs. They're making handrails and gates and all this other stuff because they don't want to work for somebody else. I think a lot of times welders are kind of loners, and that's why there's so many like one-man welding companies out there.
I was shaking my head there. I'm like, I'm not a loner. I'm a codependent weirdo. But at the end of the day, a tactile skill precedes all our institutions, right? So if you go back to the dawn of man, the dawn of humankind, the guy that could climb the tree the best was the one getting the fruits from the trees. And it's not like anyone had to ask him. And it's like, yo, you're good at this. You're going to be the person that gets the fruit from the trees, and the person with the big feet that could run the fastest, guess what? You're chasing the cheetahs. And I think as we evolved into our trades, it's the same thing. You're like, hey, you can weld. So whether I want to or not, that's the skill I offer society. So those jobs come to you. Right. It's like you're like, I mean, my neighbor, he's like, hey, I hear you welding, and can you fix a stool? It's like, yeah, man, like that's exactly what I'm built to do. It's my skill. It's my skill. And I'm, I don't pretend to be a concrete person. I don't pretend to be a woodworker. God, no, not even a little bit. I'm a welder and I'm a steel fabricator. And, if you ask me to do something like that, it's just in my wheelhouse. And I think it's weird when, and I don't know a lot of people like this, but I think it's weird when people are like a welder or they're really into the trades, but they don't have the thoughts of a side hustle, or they don't own a welder at home, or they don't want to, participate with that. It's like, because they look at it differently. To them, it's just a 9-to-5er, right? It's like accounting or grocery clerk salesman or whatever. They just go into work, they come home, and they want nothing to do with it. And I've never really looked at it like that.
Yeah. That's talking about pretending to do other skills. Like next week, I'm going to pretend to be an electrician. I'm going to pretend to be a drywaller. I'm going to pretend to be an insulator because I'm expanding the podcast. So like I'm actually building a legit studio. Being down here in Florida, like I'm subject to the elements in the garage. I do not have an air conditioned space. And, so I'm at the mercy of when my wife's doing laundry and the temperature outside, I got to set up a fan or a heater depending on the time of the year. Cause that one day when it got cold, I had to go out and get a heater, but so I went and got a shed and I have to like retrofit this thing. But because of the stuff, like welding has a lot of transferable skills, so I can check out some YouTube videos. I've been on enough job sites watching, people run drywall. I've got a pretty good concept of, how to push insulation in. And, I just had a conversation with an electrician at work the other day, and he kind of showed me how to set up all the wiring of the outlets. And like, here's how you set up a junction box. And this is, how you want to tie everything together. So, I'm going to have him come out and help me. But, like a lot of the skills are transferable. If I got to cut a hole in a piece of sheet metal, I can do the same thing in drywall with a razor knife or a box cutter or something like that. I mean, well, it's subject to, it's yet to be seen, but we'll find out.
Yeah, the level of finesse maybe isn't there, but you can rough it out.
I can hide a lot of stuff with paint and putty. So it's just like grinder and paint make you the welder you ain't. You put enough putty and paint over it, nobody's going to see it.
Unfortunately, I see that too much.
Yeah, just faking it.
Oh my gosh. Some of the things that I see out there that people call acceptable and they can go home calling that good. Oh my goodness. Holy cow. It really makes me have appreciation for other guys out there who really take a pride in their work. There's so many people out there who will just call it a day. And that's where people like us shine, where we can go out there and we can do a really good job and get it done for the customers and in a timely manner. And really, I always said that one of my basic principles or one of my competitive advantages was just basic business principles. I call you back when you call me. I answer the phone when there's a problem. I answer your emails. I show up on time. I do what I say I'm going to do for the price I'm going to say it, and we get the job done and go home,
So then what's the next step for Kevin then? Is it grow? Do you have a cap? Like what's the end game?
End game for JMW? Well,
because that's tricky. Because I had that problem. I was like, I love my business, and it grew. Got a new location, bigger shop, then another new location, bigger shop. Then I was up to like 12 staff, and then I like lost my mind and had to sell it. It got like too big for my britches, and I was only like 31 or 32 when it got to that level. So I think also I was kind of still a little young and immature, needed a little bit more education maybe, but I got caught up in the growth train, and then you can outgrow yourself. And that's a lesson I had to learn, on my own. I wish someone would have sat me down and be like, yo, there's times to pull back. Because I was just like, grow, money, growth, success. And then it's like, oh my God, I have no idea what I'm doing. And then the panic sets in.
No, I think I've been there too. We had like 5 guys at one time, and that's like the most that I can actually handle and manage effectively. I felt like there was so many things going on that were just falling by the wayside, because in the end, it all, like, other than actually going out there and like putting down the welds, it all ended up on me. The accounting, the bookkeeping, the sales, the organizing of the shop, the growing of the shop, the management of the floor of the shop. It was just all too much. So we scaled things back a little bit, and now it's more about managing people and putting processes into place to do those things. And on that whole thought of processes, I think the end goal for JMW is, I don't see why you can't franchise a welding company. You can franchise plumbing, you can franchise, food. Why can't you franchise welding? So that's something that I really want to explore. Our son turns 18 in 5 years, and we want to move down south. So we're going to keep the business up here in Pennsylvania. We're going to keep the business up here in Pennsylvania.
New Florida man.
No. North Carolina. I like the politics there. I like it's by the beach. Wilmington, to be exact, is kind of where we're looking because it's a beach town and it can support the size business that we need. And it can be our first test hub for franchising JMW fabrication. So we'll see how that goes. I think that's, for the short term, that's the goal for what we're looking to do. Really, right now we're just investing in a lot of machines, a lot of processes, and just we're getting into the stuff that everybody hates: stairs, railings, light, architectural, structural stuff like that. That's really kind of our niche, and just looking to make our processes better right now.
That's
man,
really cool. I've never thought about franchising a welding company.
So I was just going to say, like, that's exactly what I brought to the CWB. One of the things that I got hired to do. So, like, I worked for a company called Brandt Industries here in Canada, one of the largest companies in all North America for manufacturing agricultural equipment. And I was with them when they decided to get into this concept of, how to reproduce product on the fly. Like, let's say, like a franchise. Can we just open up a shop in another place and it's going to pump out the same product we're doing here at the same quality? And it's all based on process. So I actually got sent to school by them to learn, things called value streaming, process orientation, all this stuff. And I got trained on how to develop processes. And man, that was a game changer, not just for like work-wise, like my life. Like if you develop a clean process, then you kind of take all the questions out of it and you can plop that in front of somebody else. And it can be just like a Starbucks or a whatever, where it's like, hey, here you go. And it's the concept of push versus pull, which is a big concept in the world of business that people don't understand. Is like most companies are reactive and they wait for the pull to come from the industry, being like, we need 10 of these or we need 3 of these. But once you can isolate for the 2 or 3 products, because every company is going to have their custom side that will never go away. But the custom stuff doesn't really make you money. It's usually really time intensive, and it's cool, and everyone puts their pictures up on Instagram, and you can be like, wow, we did this awesome job. I worked on it for 3 months. I made $9. Like, wow, but it's the reproducing process oriented stuff that makes you the stringers for stairs. Yeah. Okay. But I get this in a proper jig with the proper machines. It's pumping them out. I do 50 a day. I only make $1 each, but that's $50, and it requires 8 minutes of work. Right. When I got hired at CWB, that's the first thing I did with my chapters as an association. We were reacting with the chapters. We were waiting for the chapters to ask us for stuff. And it's like, no, let's look at them like little franchises. Let's develop the process, and then we'll just push out. Here's the swag. It goes out. Here's the marketing pictures we want you to use. Push it out. That way, you just eliminate that. And I think you got something there, man. I think that's awesome. Once you figure out your scope, because that's a big thing for franchise. What's my scope? Am I a 3 to 5 person shop? Am I a 7 to 10 person shop? Because then if someone comes to you and say, well, I want to invest $3 million into your company and to set up a 20 person franchise in, California, you may have to say no, right? Be like, no, we don't scale out that way. You can maybe open 3 shops, each of 5, but I think that's genius. I love it.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said about you owning your business before. Is you got it to a point where you just couldn't handle it, and I've been there too. And my number is 5 team members. So, and my downfall was I didn't have the right processes in place. I didn't have a way to empower people to make their own decisions. I didn't have guys to go out there and do the bidding. Guys to go out there and do the customer relations, to do the Google marketing and management of that kind of stuff. And I feel like if you have the right processes, you can franchise almost anything. I say that, it's funny. I joke that we want to be the Chick-fil-A of the welding industry. We want to have so I think so our slogan is JMW Specialty Welding and Fabrication, not your ordinary welding company. Because I don't sell people on welding. I sell people on customer service. There's a lot of people who can go out there and weld. They can get the job done. They can do it for the right price. We sell customer service. And this is what I tell everybody, from the people I'm coaching to people who hit me up on Instagram about how do I do this? As long as you're basically proficient and you can convey that, people, they get that. You don't have to sell them on, I can do a stack of dime weld. Most people don't care. They want to know, can you get it done on time in my time frame for the price that I need to pay? And are you going to be there when something goes wrong? Are you going to be there fixing it if you mess up or somebody else messes up? And, you know, a lot of the customers that we keep there have been issues, and it's all in how you deal with the issues. You know, at Chick-fil-A, if you got something wrong, they don't take it back and try to fix it. They just give you a whole new one. Well, I want to have, I mean, that won't be necessarily in with what we do, but it's all about how you react and how you deal with the problems. And I think if you can convey that and put that in writing for people to follow and help people get that coaching, that first foot in the door of how do I start my own welding business? And, you know, I think a lot of it has to be hyper local. Stairs and railings are hyper local. You can't compete with making stuff and sending it to China and try to franchise that. That's just not going to work. You have to do something that a guy 2 hours away can't do effectively or efficiently in your area. And, you know, stairs and railings and equipment repair and light architectural and structural stuff, that's kind of where it's at. It doesn't take a whole lot to get into. The machines are pretty basic. Mm-hmm. You know, everybody who would be looking to get into something like that has a basic idea and concept of how to do it. So let's just give them the tools to do it.
So how much research do you got to put into location or geography for a franchise? Because, like, I mean, if I apply to open up a Starbucks, they can say no, right? They can be like, no, that's not a good area. We did the research and you got too much competitors. No dice. That's part of your game plan too? Is like, I mean, I don't know how deep in the weeds you are in this in your mind, but you know, that'd be a tricky thing. So like let's say I'm, you know, in Pennsylvania and I have 5 welding buddies and we've been working for a shop and we're like all talking, being like, hey, let's open up a business. And we go online, we Google up and it's like, hey, we can open up a franchise of JMW. Cool. We hit the check boxes. We got the welding skills. We got the education. We got all the things they require. We apply and you're like, sorry, not going to work. Not for your area. What's the option, you know?
You know, I haven't gotten that far down into it. I think it has to do with per capita, what is up and coming, who your competitors are, what the track record of your competitors have been around the area. If there are people going out of business left and right, I don't think that's a good indication, but because there's a lot of people going out of business now, but they're all retiring, you know? As a rule of thumb, I'm going to say, just like you said with Starbucks, if Starbucks is moving in, you know, Chick-fil-A is moving in, you know, there are other high-end, like, you know, you're getting the
strip mall's not far behind.
Exactly. Yeah. You're getting a Verizon store. You're getting a Panera Bread soon because they've done the market research and they know that it's a worthwhile investment. Now, granted, I'm not going to go just on those metrics alone, but let the bigger guys do the heavy lifting and just kind of see if you see mom and pop shops and McDonald's and Dollar Trees all around, that might not be a place for you to invest $500,000 to starting a welding company, you know?
Jason, you got thoughts starting something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, that's a good indicator, like a performance indicator, you know, like, you know, if a Walmart's going in, like other things are going to start following. They're blazing a trail. They've already done the market research. So, I mean, that's a good way to look at it. But yeah, I've never thought about the possibilities of franchising a welding company. I think that's a pretty good idea. You know, just to be able to have like a turnkey solution, you know, you fall up underneath an umbrella. But I think the problem you're going to run into is now you got to manage and check in on all these different locations to make sure that they're following and adhering to your brand, you know, and customer service. I like the fact that you brought that up because everybody out there with a 210 amp welding machine, you know, they're a welder, you know, essentially, at least they claim to be. So you got people that could do all this stuff in their garage. But the fact of the matter is, are they going to show up on time? Are they going to be there when they say they're going to be there? Is the quality of work going to be there? Can they meet the deadlines? Can they stay under budget? Can they keep their head above water, you know, on the bidding process? So, I mean, I think, you know, selling customer service or building your brand around customer service, I mean, that's an awesome idea because not too many people can do that. You know, it's the warranty is you get the rear view mirror warranty. You know, once I can't see it in my rear view mirror, it's no longer under warranty. So I think just having a good customer service and a rapport with your clients and everything, I think that's going to help you go far.
Agreed. Absolutely. And, you know, everybody's complaining about the economy right now. and how it's hard to get things. And man, I don't know if you guys deal with the healthcare system at all, but holy cow, is the healthcare system terrible. Maybe not for you, Max, but because you're up in Canada, but the customer service for everything has dropped. You go to a restaurant, people aren't friendly anymore. People aren't going out of, like, some people are, but it's a lot more rare than it used to be to find outstanding customer service and help. And I feel like
art.
Yeah, I feel like that's going to be the competitive advantage in the next decade. Is, yeah, everybody can do, plumbing, but who's going to be the plumber who calls you back, gets your problem resolved in 15 minutes and then somebody's on their way? You're going to go with that person every time, versus you got to wait for this guy to call back. He calls you at the end of the day. I can't get to you till next week. And sometimes that's going to happen. But I think customer service is going to be the competitive advantage in the next decade. So why not hop on and preemptively do that in the welding field?
Well, look at some of the brands like John Deere, right? John Deere is in every town in all of North America, and including Mexico. And they're the most expensive of the equipment trees, right? Like you can go with Hayabusa, you can go with all these other brands that are less. But when you buy John Deere, that's their deal, is that they're customer service. That's what they sell, is customer service, because it doesn't matter where your machine breaks down in all of North America. There's going to be a mechanic out there within a few hours, period. Don't matter. And they will get it fixed. And if not, it's going on a trailer and they're bringing out a new one. Like, I mean, it's just that's the way it is. And I've seen a lot of, like, I worked in the manufacturing sector for agriculture for decades. And it's like, a lot of people will be like, oh man, I'll save 10 grand or 50 grand on this machine that came from Russia or China. And they're great machines. Don't get me wrong. Every country is pushing hard. It's not like countries are slacking. Like, people push out good product, but it's the customer service. Now this thing breaks down. You're on the hook to pull it out and get it somewhere to get fixed. And sure, they'll cover the costs, but it's on you. But then you go with like the John Deere's or the Brandts or the local companies, and there's someone there, like in your town, that you can even be like, hey, you're working on my thing. Yeah, I'm working on a thing. Where's it going? And they'll explain it to you. And this is what's wrong. And this is what we got to do. And that's worth the price of admission,
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like that can be applied to other things in business, like equipment. If you go out there and you get a call that a crusher or a big excavator is down, charging a couple $1,000s a day for that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't get to that for 3-4 days, then you've got an issue. They've got an issue. They're losing 10-15 grand because you can't get out there to do it. And good customer service is, okay, well, I got a guy here in the shop. We're going to have to push the deadline on this back a day or two. But we'll be out there and we'll get you up and running tomorrow.
Yeah, that conversation. Jason, are you going to open up a shop ever? You ever thought about running a business?
I've thought about it. Like I thought about like opening up an educational facility.
Oh yeah.
And going off and doing that. But I like, the more I start digging into it, it's like, it's a long process and like the upfront capital. And it's like, damn, like I know I could do it and remain competitive and turn out a good product because it's something I'm passionate about, but just kind of getting like doing the research on setting up a facility, getting the appropriate square footage, doing the market research, are people going to travel to come to this school? It's been in the back of my mind for a couple of years now. Like I think it would be a worthwhile investment to set up a welding school. Like we need it. I mean, it's huge. There's a big market right now for people getting into the trades and like trying to find quality facilities. And I mean, like I'm already working for a company that's providing that service,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like, I think I could do it a little bit different without like, there's some things that I would change. If
Everyone's
I was in
got their
100%
angle,
control.
right?
Yeah, everybody's got a different angle. And, like Stephanie Hoffman, she's doing freaking awesome right now. She just opened up hers, like short little training services, like week-long classes or 2 nights a week or, like a Saturday workshop or just like, hey, I'm into automotive. I just need to learn how to TIG weld on some light gauge material. Here's the type of stuff that I'm working on. Can you show me how to do this?
Mm-hmm.
And, I definitely think there's a market for it, but like the upfront capital and all that, trying to fund that, without having an investor that's going to like want too much control over the end product. I think that's going to be the hardest part for me, or, going to a bank and saying, hey, I need a $250,000 loan,
Mm-hmm.
To build a welding school. And then they're going to be like, well, there's all these little checks and boxes and forms and, you got to meet the stuff for the municipalities and insurance and all this other stuff. And it's like, it just seems like a really big headache. But, I could throw a freaking Lincoln Ranger in the back of a pickup truck, and I could have a welding business the next day doing stairs and handrails and stringers and repairs and, fixing all the stuff that, everybody else with a welder said that they could do. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of that work out there.
Mm-hmm.
I did that for 2 years. It was kind of enjoying, but, when going through that whole process. But, at the end of the day, I really enjoy educating. I love welding, love everything about it, and I want to pass that information on. And so, I mean, if I was to start up at my own business, or I think that would be my next step, would be to open up a small educational facility, kind of like an intimate setting, no more than, 5 to 10 students in there, and make it more about the experience than the number of bodies that are in the class. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I do. And let me tell you, in Canada, that dream's almost non-existent. Like, the U.S. has one of the drawbacks of the U.S. welding systems is that there isn't an overarching standard, right? But one of the advantages of the U.S. system is that there isn't an overarching standard. So you could open up private facilities. Like, you look at like the Arkansas and all these awesome welding institutes, Stephanie's school, all these things can get up and running, and they get to create what their vision is of teaching, right? They can be like, this is what I want. We could do this short courses. And I think that's freaking awesome in Canada because we're all standardized. Those list of check boxes is nuts. Like, and you have to hit government standards. And like, I mean, then your price of admission just gets like, unless you can drop, and like $250,000 isn't even going to be a drop. Like, you're looking at $3-4 million to get off the ground in order to hit the check boxes that you need to do to be an official training center recognized by the government, right? So it's almost undoable, but it is something that I think needs to happen also in Canada. I remember at the last college I worked at, one of the things we did is we just opened up a corner of booths. We had these booths that kind of were off the main line. We had 52 welding booths, but there was 4 in the corner that were like in a weird shape and kind of out of the way. So none of the teachers ever used them. So we set up a thing called just like a drop-in, $80 drop-in. $80, you walk in. If you're here at 8 in the morning for $80, you get a booth, all the consumables you need as long as it's not stainless. So pipe, plate, sheet metal, whatever. You can go through the scrap bin, or we have pre-cut stuff. Like, as you school, you always have your bins of pre-cut for the students. You can have access to the pre-cut, and you get a booth for $80. We started advertising just drop-in $80 days. Man, booked solid for a year, 2 years. Now that's forever now. And that's like a huge source of income for the school now, because now they're like, damn, at 4 booths a day, there's $320 a day coming in that is on empty booths that would have lied there empty anyways, and they're burning up scrap that's not getting used anyways. And these are people that are coming into practice in for CWB tickets or even AWS tickets or ASME tickets, and they don't have the facilities at home. They don't want to take a 2-week course. They got a day off work. They can come in and just burn on a $30,000 machine that they can never afford, but this college has, right? We got nice STTs, we got the RMDs, Pipeworks. Grab a machine and go. Like, if that setup for me always was in my mind. Like, if I could start up a school in Canada, a small college, it'd be like that. Have like a worker space where I have machines and people can come in and book them. So like, I'm a home hobbyist, but I want to make these brackets and I don't want to cut them and re-weld them. I can just form them. I'll have a small brake press that is just there. And for, let's say, $150 a day, you get to come borrow my shop. And there's a person there to just make sure you don't get hurt. And you get to bend your own plates and then you leave, right? And then you get to drill your own things. Or if you need a better welder, you can come in for $80 a day and just weld all your stuff here because I got nice big tables in the space, and then you're out of here. Like, it's no contracts. It's no like commitment for life. It's just like a drop-in center for welding. That's kind of always been my idea for a welding school or support system for like the hobbyists that don't have the huge garage, but they want to do stuff, right?
Like a welding maker space.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Top Golf for welding.
Yeah, exactly like
Hey, we
that.
could franchise that. We need to edit this whole freaking podcast and cut that segment out. I mean, that's a brilliant idea. You get one in PA, we got one in Florida, one up in Canada. We can franchise like welding maker spaces.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that forever. Even a small 3D printing machine for like, and you just drop in. It's $1 or X amount of money to come in, and you just have to have one person on staff. And I even thought about like tying into colleges where this is a good place for co-op students to come in and you hire co-op students to come, just make sure everyone's safe. They know how to use the machinery, low cost, but it's just the initial buy of equipment and setup. And then after that, I think it rolls.
We actually had those on base when I was in the Marine Corps. So they had like a woodworking shop. They had like a small welding shop. They had an automotive area. And what you do is you buy your material or your parts or whatever. Like I used to go down there all the time, because I had a piece of shit, Mitsubishi Eclipse that always needed work on it. So I'd take it right down to the auto shop, and like they've got a lift there that you can use, all the impact guns, all the tools, everything you needed. You just bring your own, you do your oil changes and stuff. You bring the parts and the fluids and all that stuff, and they've got all the tools for you to use. And it was all free because it's like, right on base. But just to have a facility like that and rent this stuff out, so people aren't, people want to do this stuff, but like, let's say you get into woodworking. I got in like woodworking hard for about a year, and I probably spent way more money than I should have on table saws and routers and, band saws and like all the cool tools that go along with it. But I don't necessarily do enough woodworking anymore to justify that purchase. But if there was like a shop I could go to, I got a handful of lumber that, I want to convert this into a box or a table or something like that, to be able to have access to those tools for like you said, $100 on a Saturday. I mean, that's not bad.
And a big table, like a 12 by 10 table that you don't have at home to actually build something nice and flat and level. You know what I mean? Like I have a garage. My garage is so full at home, and I still run my little one-man shop business. I still got my company to this day. But there's days where I'm setting up, workhorses all over my backyard to try to make a big level space for me to build something bigger than I can build in my garage. That's annoying.
Yeah.
I think there are places out there like that. I don't know if you guys follow. I can't pronounce his last name. Dave Moneysign on Instagram. He used to work for P2 Industries, and he actually got hired on. I think it's he's setting up a maker space like that for the University of South Dakota, I think. But they have a whole tapestry and like a sewing shop. They have a wood shop. They have a 3D printing shop. They have a metal shop. And it's like I forget, he was still in the process when I talked to him about how it's like a membership. You do it like per month, but it's for like actual innovative things that you're doing. So if you're coming up with a patent, or you're coming up with an actual something that is really innovative, not just like fixing, grandma's handrail, you can be a part of that maker space. And I thought that was such an amazing concept, to have a place where you can go and they give you a little bit of training, and you just go in there and use the space for whatever you need. I actually thought about doing that at my shop, because if you think about it, I got a shop that runs 10 hours a day. That's another 12 hours a day that it's not running. So what if I rent out part of the space, and maybe we work second shift and we rent it out for first shift for other people or something like that? But it wasn't going to work out for me. But man, I love the idea of doing that. And I think, Max, you hit the nail on the head with the industry standards. I find that the problem that I have as a business owner is hiring guys out of welding school who can only weld. Now, Jason, I looked a little bit into your school, and you have like a plasma table and stuff like that, and you teach them a little bit of fabrication. And for my industry, for what we do, I'd say it's 20% welding and 80% fabrication.
Yeah.
And I've been pushing for our local tech school to buy some sort of fabrication tools and add it into the curriculum. But the teacher who was there he taught me, and he was there for probably 20 years, and he didn't want anything to do with it. He just wanted to stick with the curriculum. He wanted to do what the state required for standard. We had to check these boxes. I convinced them into buying a magnetic drill, and I don't think they've ever used it. It's things like that. Like, if you can come out and you can measure something square with a ruler doing 3, 4, 5, you'd be surprised how many people don't even know how to do that coming out of school. And it's the fabrication skills that I think really get you in the door with shops, other than just doing pipe welding or just doing production stuff. And that would be my advice to anybody who's out there listening to in tech school, who's in college doing this. Learn how to fabricate. Welding is a big part of it. You need to learn how to put down a nice, good, solid weld, but learn how to fabricate, because you will be so much more you're so much more valuable. So much more valuable.
Yeah,
That's the word I
more
was looking for.
valuable, more
Valuable.
marketable. That's
Marketable
one
and
thing we
valuable.
started doing is like talking with employers, like, hey, what do you all need?
Mhm.
You know, because we were cranking out welders for the longest time, you know, going off the state mandated curriculum and all that stuff, and it's great. You know, but the feedback we're getting from employers is, hey, we need people that can cut, fit, and fab.
Read a
the
tape
welding stuff's
measure.
Great. Yeah, they can weld. Awesome. That's great. But you know, I need them to do 80% of other things. Like you said, the welding's the 20%. It's the most technical. So we got to spend the most amount of time there refining and honing and shaping that skill. But I mean, that's what we started doing is project-based learning. So now like we're handing out blueprints like, hey, and it's just like little widgets and stuff, but they're learning how to use a tape measure. They're learning how to use a square. We got in a bunch of strong hand fixture tables. So now they're learning about fixturing. We've got a knee mill in there. So now you can teach them to surface pieces and, you know, do some precision drilling. And we've got the saw in there to be able to cut things. The plasma table, you know, I just got a crash course on that with our Swift Cut plasma table yesterday. So I'm going to go in there and I'm going to start building more pieces and connections and little kits for them to work on. And then they'll just take the raw material based off the blueprint and, you know, assemble things and fixture them up and weld them all out. And then, you know, they'll get a grade on all that. But now they've got, you know, once they finish these projects, they can take pictures. Now, when they go see the employers, they have a portfolio. Here's the blueprint that I worked off of. Here's the item that I built. And here's the grade that I got. You know, so they have a little bit more, you know, they're a little bit more valuable at that point because they can cut, fit, fabricate, read a tape measure. You know, they know how to use it, which end of the square to use. You know, just simple stuff like that we take for granted as welders every day. And, you know, we were in the same boat, you know, when we started learning how to weld 25 years ago. We didn't know how to do any of this stuff. We had to kind of like learn on the job site. And that's one of the things I wish I would have learned in school is like, you know, basically like sitting in a math class. I'm learning all this math. Where and when am I going to use this?
All the time.
And, you know, same thing when I went through welding school. I was like, what am I going to work on when I get out there? And like, nobody could give me a direct answer because welding is so diverse. You're welding on so many things from automobiles to bridges to rockets to, you know, whatever. You know, if it's made out of metal, somebody's got to weld it, right? But I think like these just little widgets and projects and stuff to work on. I did a really cool projects with my buddy Ryan Eubank and Kyle Linko through Project MFG over the summer. And we just built like this tiny little stainless steel pressure vessel. And we had 2 hours to complete it. And I was like, I'm going to have this thing done in 45 minutes. It took me over an hour to tack this thing up correctly to where it was like nice and square. And, you know, once I weld on it, it wasn't going to pull all over the place. So, but because of my experience, you know, I was able to get it done. And then once it was, you know, the project was complete, they actually hooked up to an air hose and pressure tested it and put it in a bucket of water. And if it bubbled, you fail. So, I mean, just doing simple stuff like that. And then people, they learn how to set things up and tack them to prevent distortion. You know, these are the things that should be taught in welding schools everywhere because welding's great, but, you know, you don't just roll up to the job site and everything's perfectly tacked and aligned and ready to go. And you walk in there and, you know, flip your hood down and weld it out and then walk back on the red carpet to your limo and drive off to the next weld. You know, it's not going to happen. Like,
do you remember those videos that were out?
Yeah,
with
you have to learn how to fit this stuff up, you know? That's the biggest thing is fabrication, like learning how to fabricate. So
I'm going to be the ignorant Canadian right now because I have no idea how it works in the U.S., but that is part of the requirements to be a Canadian welder. It's 70. So welding school in Canada is 70% theory, 30%, you know, hands-on. So you're in the shop, but it's all fab, math, geotrig, algebra. That's part of the requirements of getting your welding. And I have a question then. Is there a steel fab program? Is there fabrication programs, like standalone fabrication programs in your areas or in the U.S.? Like,
not in my area. I know there's the fab school. I can't remember. I think they're either based. I think they're based
Nevada,
out of PA.
I think. No,
I think there's one in PA, and it's probably two separate companies. But I know that there's like a fabrication school up in PA, and then the other one, I think you're right, is out in Nevada. And they just take you in. I don't think they teach welding. They teach the fabrication of it. So sheet metal fabrication. You know, here's how to use a slip roller. Here's how to use the metal stretcher, the metal shrinker, and like make body panels. Like literally, there's a machine that'll shrink and stretch metal. Because that's always a fun thing to make the apprentice go get. Like, hey, go get the beam stretcher out of the gang box, and they're over there for hours just throwing shit everywhere. But yeah, they teach the fabrication aspects of it. But like here in Florida, like most of our curriculum is, you know, the bulk of it is welding. I mean, there's some theory and stuff, but I do like the way that you guys do it up in Canada because, you know, you've got a practical sense of it. And I think like Germany's got it on lockdown, man.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
at the age of 14, you're done with all your or not elementary school, but like you're done with all your schooling. And now you're either going to university or you're going to trade school, and both of them hold equal weight in the eyes of the public.
Nice.
And now you're learning on the job. You know, you're going into school, you're learning a couple days a week, and then boom, you're OJT, you know, the other 3 days of the week. So I think they've got this thing locked down and mastered over there.
Now, do you guys follow the IIW, the International Institute of Welding, at all?
No, I will now.
You ever heard of them?
No.
So the IIW is a not-for-profit that is worldwide, that actually communicates with all welding associations around the world. So like Africa, Australia, Asia, India, Germany, France are huge in there. Italy, England, Canada's a part of it. We're a paying member. So the CWB, that's one of the organizations I actually have to work with, is the IIW, to make sure that anything we come up in Canada aligns with Germany and France and Australia, so that we're not creating things in a bubble. So like if Canada decides tomorrow, this is a standard, well, it needs to jive with the rest of the world, or else we're going to basically push ourselves out of the job market, right? Because if we say, hey, this is how we want to weld things and screw the rest of the planet, well, guess what? We're not going to get as much work. So if we want to build things, we should check with Germany, France, Australia, the big other heavyweights in the world that have welding, you know, associations, and have that conversation. And it's got to be through not profits, because if you, as soon as you get the for profits in, then they're going to be like, well, buy our product. And that's not the game. It's about it being, you know, for the community, for the welders. We're trying to protect the welders. And that's a big selling point for the CWB, is that if you get your CWB certification, I can go to Germany and work straight across the board. I jive with their standards. I jive with France. I jive with Australia. I jive with these other countries. And, you know, the IIW does a lot of that stuff. They have a huge conference coming up in Japan this year. They do an international conference, I think, every second year. I actually applied to my boss if I could go, and he said no.
You quit, find another job, go work for yourself.
You're
I
a
was like,
boss.
I want to go. I have one boss, and that boss said no. And I mean, I can't even go to like the other boss and be like, Mom, can I?
I have noticed that though, because I've got to talk to people from like all over the world, you know, through the podcast or through Instagram. Is like being a Red Seal welder out of Canada it's kind of a big deal. It carries a lot of weight, you know. And like for the longest time, it wasn't until I had you on the show, Max, that I understood what a Red Seal welder actually was. You know, because it's not like, yeah, I'm a certified welder. Okay, cool. Like, I mean, there's a standard. I mean, there's a litany of things that you have to go through. There's a written test. There's a practical test. You know, and then you have to go through welding tests. And
3
you know,
years.
but it's and it's recognized over like in Australia and, you know, throughout Europe.
I think it's
and
87
Mexico.
countries. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all over the place. It's really cool that you guys have that set up and, you know, took that initiative to say, you know, how do they do things in France? Let's make sure we're meeting or exceeding those expectations and requirements. What do they do in Germany? Let's meet and exceed those requirements. You know, what about Australia? You know, what about China and Japan? Like everybody's got like their own idea of how a weld should be, or, you know, like the
best
training
way
that
to
has
do
to
it,
go
yeah,
into it.
yeah.
And then you guys pretty much meet all those standards and, you know, like pretty much set the standard for it.
Well, it's very much like Kevin's idea for how to run a business. You want to have that customer service angle where you kind of cover all the bases. Canada's not a huge country population-wise, right? But we're pretty rich. So we don't got a lot of people, but we got a lot of money. So how do we make ourselves marketable? We're going to be expensive. Hiring a Canadian company is going to cost you more than a Chinese company, 100% every time, right? So then how do we compete? Well, we're going to have to compete on the skill set. That's it. It's not going to be on price. So if we can't compete on price, then what are the other options? Well, we got to make sure that what our people can produce at a high level and reproduce it and have the process to and understand that, right, from schooling. And education is the only way you're going to do that. That's really hard to learn on the job. That's something that a teacher needs to sit you down and be like, look, this is how it works. This is how it's going to play out for the rest of your career. Right, the U.S. is in a different position. You guys got tons of people. You guys can compete with China. You guys can compete with Russia. You guys could produce X number of widgets to stake out your claim, which is super powerful, but also can let things slide. Like where's Zenith TVs now, right? Zenith used to be one of the largest, you know, tech suppliers in the world. They had the ability, they had the technology, but they got squeezed out, and it was because of lack of service. They just ended up being right, and no one, at the end of the day, no one wants to buy. Doesn't matter if it's cheap or not.
Yeah, I think that's going to be like the new currency going forward into the future. I mean, before, we were on the gold standard and then it switched. But I think that in not just in manufacturing, but I think the new global currency is going to be labor, because we need skilled people all across the world. At a global level, we need skilled people. And so I think that's going to be, the biggest thing is making yourself marketable and employable and more valuable that way. What you can produce, the things that you're able and capable of doing.
Now, now, Kevin, for you with your franchise idea and your business, do you have any thoughts about like maybe incorporating some training or education, professional development for your employees as part of the franchise? Because I know most franchises do have that, and that's something that's sellable to a franchise, being like, not only do you buy into our company, you buy into our ideology, you buy into our brand, you buy into our way of existing, which could be, you get a free training course a year, or you get some upskilling a year, or you get some certifications. Is that part of kind of your idea, or has it been?
It is actually. I wasn't going to actually bring this up, but I feel like there is a way to bridge the gap in between the right out of school and your online or your in the real world experience that you get. Because I feel like I haven't, when I first got out of school, it took me a long time to really learn all the skills and the tips and the tricks that everybody learned. And I think that there's a way to expedite that without having to spend 10 years in the trenches to learn those tips over 10 years. Why can't we condense that down and make that into a course that you can teach somebody, whether in person or online, where I actually have I have this started. I have a fabricator's notebook. I've got a bunch of stuff written down. I have fabricatebetter.com already like reserved, because I think that we can start an online course to bridge that gap of the skills and the things that you learn from the old timers, and just teach them to the kids coming out of school, the guys who just want to get better at things. And I think that we'll have to tweak that in order to, make that an online course or training for the people who have a franchise. But it's going to take a certain type of person to really do it, to really have a franchise. You can't just buy into it, and it's going to have to be like an interview process. And
you're not just buying the name.
Yeah, you're going to have to really get in there and interview with me, and you have to be the right type of person, the go-getter, and you have to have the one of the things that I feel like I'm separated a little bit from a lot of other people is I love the business side of things as much as I love the welding side, if not more. Like I have guys who work for me who are just straight up better welders than I am. That's fine. And I'm good with that. I love the business side of things as much, if not more, than the welding side. And that's where I feel like I can offer a little bit more of help to people through the podcast, through coaching and training, and through the franchise and online course, if we ever get that going, and things like that. So yeah, that would definitely have to be a part of, starting your own business.
That's a huge aspect of it. Cause I know like when you go as an employee, let's say you go to work for Chick-fil-A, or you go to work for, one of these large companies or large franchises, you have to go through a week worth of training, or if not more, especially when they open up a new facility, they have people, from experienced locations come in and they give you training. I mean, you're in there, you're making the chicken sandwiches, you're figuring out the breading, you're weighing out the salads, and, everything has a standard. There's like a standard operating procedure on how to do this stuff. So you have to go through weeks of training and like literally make this stuff, before, opening day. I mean, you're in there for 2-3 weeks training how to do all this stuff, work with the crew, check out the new systems and technologies. And I think that's one of the biggest things that a lot of companies miss out on. And, just being in this business, I talk to folks all the time. It's like, hey, have you ever thought about, putting on a training session for, some of your workers, or, let's get them certified in a specific process, or let's cover welding symbols, or, how to read blueprints or something. Like send them over to the school, we'll put in, like a 1-week crash course, or, even a couple of days, whatever your schedule is. And they're like, yeah, we're afraid that if we train them, if we give them those skills,
They'll bounce.
they're just going to leave.
Mhm.
And it's like, no, I think if you give them their skills, you're going to give them a reason to stay, because now they're making you're making your employees more valuable, and you're investing time and money into your employees. You're going to make them better fabricators, better welders. You might be training your next supervisor or manager and not even know it through these courses. Now everybody's on the same page. Your productivity is going to go up because everybody's a little bit better educated. They know how to do this stuff. Now you can pay them a little bit more. Guess what? They're not going to leave because you're treating them good. People, that's the biggest thing. I was talking with some of my folks the other day. Like, you don't quit a company, you quit management. You quit policies. You don't just leave a place. There's a reason you're leaving. It's not the institution that you're a part of. It's the management, you know? So I think if you take that time, you invest into your employees, you set up a training program for a franchise, and then you provide ongoing annual training. So, hey, there's some new welding processes coming out. There's new equipment coming out. I'm going to take a day. We're going to shut the shop down. They're bringing in this new equipment, and we're going to do just a day of training. We're going to shut down all the operations. Y'all are going to learn how to use this. Everybody, not just the one guy, because they always put the one guy in there to learn that stuff. And then once he learns it, guess what? Now he leaves. Like, train everybody.
Or gets hurt or gets sick, or who you don't know, right?
And you limit your growth. You completely, if you only train that one person to do that one thing, and you're afraid of teaching them more skills in order to make them better because you're afraid they're going to leave. Listen, if you're afraid they're going to leave, then you're probably doing something wrong. You need to be able to teach them, and because that completely limits your growth. One thing we do in the shop is we have we do about 6 months. Every 6 months we do an evaluation, and we do have people write down their goals that they want to learn, and for their profession and for personal. Because, like, we actually care what you want to do. Do you want to pay your house off? You want to pay your car off? You want to move out of your parents' house? And we will take and invest time into teaching them what they want to learn. Fusion 360 and learning how to run the plasma table is always a big thing that everybody says they want to do, but look, it takes time. I'm not gonna pay you 2 weeks to sit on a computer and fiddle around with Fusion 360. You got to do it on your own time. But we lay out a plan for them and say, hey, look, if you learn how to do 2D drawings and cut something out on the plasma table, you get $1 an hour raise. And we write this out for them. If you want to learn how to do 3D drawings so that we can send it to a customer and show them the railing in their space, man, that's another $1 or $2 an hour that we'll pay you. But you got to learn how to do it. Some of the stuff we'll teach them on our dime, like when our Scotchman ironworker came. Sean from awesome guy. He came. We shut down the shop for like a half day. He showed us how to do it. He walked us through it. We all did test pieces, and now everybody can run the ironworker. So investing in your people is really, really not investing is a very short-sighted way to limit your growth and limit the people there, because if people feel valued, it's just like you said, people quit management and they quit bad processes. So if you tailor those processes to help them get better, and granted, you have to pay them. Like, if they get better, I tell everybody in the shop, I'm like, I want you to get better because I can charge more money for you, and you make things run more efficient. We make more money, and then you make more money. I want to pay you more money. You just need to be valuable enough for me to justify that, So holding people back, if you have the resources as a business owner to make your guys better, do it. Yes, sometimes they're going to leave. But, right now we do spiral staircases for another company, and we do all their welded aluminums and their line rail stuff. So we do that because we can hold the standards that they need that they can't hold in-house. And man, building a spiral staircase, an aluminum spiral staircase horizontally is tough. And it takes a lot of training to learn how to tack that together, to put it together, to keep it from warping, to keep it from pulling, and keep all those pickets and balusters still in line and looking good when you're done with it. Like, it is a complete, like, it screws with your mind a lot. And right now we're making a video on how to train people to build them, what to look out for, put this brace here, do this, tack this first so that you can move it this way. And we're putting it into a video form so we can sit down and they can watch it for an hour. We can go out there. I can hold their hand for 2 or 3 staircases, and hopefully by that time they can go out there and do it themselves with just minimal supervision.
You know, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Max.
I was going to say, first of all, I'm amazed at how much Jason knows about the process at Chick-fil-A.
Well, it's the same thing with the Starbucks. I can go off on Starbucks. I enjoy God's chicken. What can I say, man?
You really knew how to run that place. I'm very impressed. And
if this welding thing doesn't work out, man, I'm going to go work for God's Chicken.
And the concept of professional development is something that was very personal to me in my life. I was a welder, like just a welder for a long time, to the point where I started not liking welding. It was like to the point where I was like, I feel like I'm going nowhere. I feel like I'm kind of ceilinged out. And it wasn't until I finally got a job with a company that started being like, hey, do you want to take a training course? Yeah. Do you want to take a training course? Here? Yeah. Who hands up? Who wants to take this course? It's like, yeah, okay. At first it was like, yeah, just to get off the shop floor. But it's like, no, actually, I like this. I like this learning and investing into myself. And if I hadn't gotten a job with that specific company, I may not be a welder today. I might have been like, you know what, I'm done with this. I just sick of it. It kept it interesting. And it really taught me the value of being able to learn, and to learn as a welder. And that gets forgotten. People are like, oh, you are now a welder. You took a training course, wherever, and now you go off to work and your learning is done. Hard no. And it's not just about welding, right? It's about soft skills. It's other things. Like the first time I got a supervisor job, and they're like, okay, well, here's your computer that you're going to need to start putting in everyone's information into these Excel forms. And it's like, okay, I have no idea how to use Excel. Like, who would have taught me this at my point in my last 10 years of welding, how to use Excel, right? So, then it's me frantically on Google and YouTube videos the next week at night trying to learn how to do this well. And now where I am, so much of my job, like I spend countless hours every week with my staff being like, how do we help people like us grow, right? Because as an association, we're trying to give people stuff for free. Like, really, that's the end game. Like, okay, like, and in the past, there's been a lot of focus on like, I want to give out free welding training. And that seems like an obvious answer. Okay, I'm a welder. I joined the CWB Association. Teach me how to weld stainless. Okay. Teach me how to weld titanium. Yeah, okay. But those markets are niche. They're tough. And am I really helping your career? Like, yes, I could, but there's also tons of YouTube videos out there that are going to do it. What about me teaching you how to use Excel? What about me teaching you how to write a proposal? How about me teaching you how to hire and fire staff? How about me teaching you how to deal with conflict on the work floor, which is very much a part of welders' lives. Show me a welder that hasn't had conflict on the work floor. It's a tough gig sometimes. And, so that we just rolled out this program in February 1st. I spent a year working on this. We got industry involved. We got funding. I'm taking people's money. Like, I invest. I'm all in now, because it's like just trying to look at it from exactly your guys' point of view. Like, what helped me get better? And it wasn't just welding. Like, no, it was a whole other small skills that I picked up. People taught me. I picked up on my own, or like Kevin said, you're doing this on your own after hours, trying to figure out how to do 2D drawings, and you can't afford to go to school. You're just trying to learn it on your own through YouTube and downloading programs. And so now it's like, how do I help facilitate that in a way that's easy for people to actually use? And it's tough, and it's important for companies to realize that, Jason, like you said it, man, it preserves your workforce. It doesn't push them away. It makes people proud to work for you.
Yeah, that's one thing I love about my job is like they invest time and training and effort into me. Like it's nothing for me to go. I just got back from a welding procedure development class. I mean, that's going to help me be better at my job. Mm-hmm. And like I get the pleasure of traveling and then like going to learn this information. Now I'm a more valuable employee, and I'm going to stick around because they're investing more training and more time into me.
Yeah, that's super, super important, Max. Like you were saying, I have one of my old guys. He was with me since he was like 15. He graduated high school, and I kept telling him, I'm like, look, learn how to use PowerPoint. You learn how to use Microsoft Word. Learn how to write a proper email. use punctuation correctly, because man, I disregarded all that. The reason why I passed 12th grade English is because I welded something for the teacher. Okay. like not even joking. And I am relearning
One way to
all
do it.
those skills all over again as a business owner. And you don't even have to be a business owner to, you know, if you're sitting out there like, oh, I don't want to be a business, I just want to be higher up in the shop. Well, those guys who are higher up in the shop know how to write emails. They know how to convey a message properly through, you know, writing it down through an email, through whatever system you
Good
use.
communication practices.
Yeah, that's really important. How do you deal with somebody you don't like? You don't throw shit at the across the shop, and you don't, you know, try to start a fight. You have to learn to de-escalate. You need to, you know, those are real world things where supervisors need to learn those. If you want to move up, other than just putting down a bead, you need to learn how to do that stuff. And that's awesome that you're doing that, Max. Can you send some guys down to me, because we're hiring right now, and man, I can't find that. I
was going to ask you about that, because we chatted back and forth on Instagram the other day.
Yeah, like it is so hard to find people who are just who get that. You know, like we're having guys come in. It's funny. We had a guy come in. Well, he didn't even come in. So my wife weeds these guys out real quick, and she's really good at that.
How did you pass?
He swings the
know,
axe.
right? So she was, you know, she'll ask him like, why do you deserve a raise at your current job? And this one guy was like, he's like, I show up on time, I do overtime when it's available, and I work 5 days a week. And she's like, so I hate to break it to you, but that is not a reason for a raise. That is the contract that you sign when you, that's a contract between you and your employer for the minimum to keep a job open.
That's the bare minimum to get a paycheck at the end of the week.
That's not a reason for you to get a raise. And man, there's a lot of people who just don't understand that. And, you know, you know, we can teach you things. I am completely like we teach a lot of things in our shop. So I don't want you to know everything, but man, there's some things you just can't teach. And we hire for those skills. And if you don't know the rest, we'll, you know, if you're a mediocre welder, but you can make a square box. Actually, one of our tests is you take 1.5 inch or 2 inch square tubing, and you know, however long the piece is in our drop bin, I say, all right, we'll make this 10 inches by 10 inches and make it square. And I got that from Adam from Maker Table, who I talked to the other day. And man, it is so hard for people to make something that is true size and square.
Do you want mitered corners or cut corners?
Mitered corners. And I give you a grinder with a cutoff wheel. I give you a square. I give you a marker, soapstone. I give you everything you need to be successful, because a lot of times you can't cut that on a saw. I want to see how it's going to turn out in field when we hit the modifier. So that's why I give them a cut. So I don't give them all the Cadillac tools, because I want to see how you do it, how well you do it. And man, it's tough. A lot of guys, you know, they put down beautiful welds, but they can't make it square. And if it is square, it's not to the right dimensions. You know, you know, for a 10-inch box,
that hurts my heart.
Look, if it's a 1/16 of an inch, I'm okay with that. But like when you're a 1/4 inch out one way or the other, come on, man, you didn't even try.
And a 1/16 is lots. This is steel. Come on.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you if you know, like, I mean, that's like the hardest part is finding good employees. Yeah, okay, they got the skill set, and you know they've got the knowledge, they can weld, but can they show up every day? Can they not cause problems while they're in the shop? You know, are they going to be there to put in the extra time? Can you rely on them? Do they have reliable transportation? Like a lot of people seem to like show up and they're like, yeah, I'm God's gift to welding, because, you know, I just graduated school and I got a certificate that says so, and you should, you know, pay me $28 an hour. But they don't have like the soft skills. They don't understand how to cut, fit, and fabricate. And I think that's a big misconception in the industry. But, you know, like, how's it been trying to, you know, recruit for the position of being a welder at your shop?
So we hold our guys up to a higher standard because we see ourselves as the Chick-fil-A of welding. We have a lot of people who are okay, they're decent welders and they can go get jobs, you know, at normal, typical places, who will put up with, the shortcomings that they have. There's actually a company in town, I won't mention their name, but they pay well, they have great benefits, and they'll hire anybody for like $24 an hour. And I lose some people to that because you know what? Like some people just chase the money.
Mhm.
And we look for guys who have the core qualities that you can't teach, and we look for guys who are trainable. You know, there are very few people out there, but there are some. We actually just hired another guy on last week. He's going to be starting in a couple weeks. He values the fact that he's going to come in and learn. So whenever I say it's okay to chase money if that's what you want to do, but know that you're chasing money at the sacrifice of being a better fabricator in the long run. So I worked at a fabrication shop for 6 years when I was 15. And man, I learned so much from those two old guys that was invaluable for my platform of me as a fabricator to launch off and become a better fabricator. I didn't get paid great. I got paid okay. It was not a great work environment. They had, temper problems, and they would throw base plates and put holes in the walls and stuff like that. But, I dealt through it. I had the attitude, I don't care, like you'll be over tomorrow. But it is tough to find people who have those soft skills that you can't teach. And we'll teach you everything else. If you can't TIG weld, if you can't TIG weld aluminum, because that's a lot of what we do is aluminum TIG welding. If you're teachable and you're coachable, we actually had a girl come in, and she could run a plasma table, she could run a saw, but she had like 1 year of welding experience in a school. So we're like, you know what? Let me just see if you can do it. So you know what? The shop is kind of empty the next week. Come in, spend the entire week. We'll pay for all material. You can use our welders. You can use everything. I will help coach you to see if you can get up to the level that you need to be. And man, having somebody like that who's willing to come in and just spend a week of their time and get better, and in hopes, because we told her, we're like, hey, you might not be at the point where we offer you a job. And ultimately we didn't, and she recognized that halfway through the week, and she was still okay with it. But finding good people who are willing to learn and don't have bad habits already, who are teachable and coachable, and who want to get better and realize that getting better entails, it entails money. Like you should get paid more as you get better. But as a business owner, there has to be a give and take with that, because if you want more money, you need to bring something to the table to justify me paying you more money. And a lot of younger people don't quite understand that. And it's frustrating, but some people do. And there are those people out there. So I'm hopeful for people out there. But we are kind of jaded with trying to hire, some of the stories. I feel like we could start a podcast or write a book on the morons that who come in, who just, I really want to have my wife on and interview her, because she's the one who like she's, God bless her, man.
Got to go through the paperwork.
Holy cow. She takes the brunt of all the first phone calls. And boy, does she have some stories. Holy cow. Stuff you can't even make up. Like, we'll be in the office and she just puts the phone down, puts it on speaker so we can all hear. And we're all just dying. We're like, what did you just say?
That's one of the things when I talk to employers, I'll go in there and say, hey, what type of skills are you looking for? Like if you were going to hire a student out of my program, what do you want them to know? And the number one response, which blew me away, I figured it'd be like welding, cutting, the ability to read prints or weld symbols. It's just send me a good person, send me who's somebody trainable. And then, I can teach them to do what we do here. Just send me a good person. And I like it. It's weird, but it seems like it's a rare commodity these days to find a good person that's like willing to work and they want to learn and they're hungry to do this stuff. And, they don't think that it's your privilege to hire them,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's indicative of a larger problem with society and how they view the trades. Because what happens is that, those good kids in high school or early elementary school years. So you're coming up grade 7, 8, 9, all the really good kids that are well behaved, ambitious, respectful, care about learning. The teachers immediately are like, you're going to university. You're the good kids. You're going to university. And the kids that are acting out and don't care and, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you're going to go into the trades. Right. And then we're on the other end of that as educators sometimes. And I think everyone deserves a fair shake. And, I was a bad kid. So, representing the bad kids that, you can still turn out all right. But I am going to be honest and say I made my own life a hell of a lot harder than it needed to be by being an asshole. Right. And I wish someone would explain that to me, because it's not like I can't blame the employer for not giving me opportunity. It was me capping myself out straight up. Right. So that is, I think, indicative of the layers of how we designate which kids are going to go where. Because if we had guidance counselors and high school teachers saying, you know what, you're a good kid, you're smart, you're respectful, and you like working with your hands, why don't you go be a welder? Then we would have good, respectful, ambitious kids walking into welding school who had a 90 average in high school saying, hey, teach, I'm here to learn welding. And man, those kids walk in, we love them. Like, they're great kids to work with, because they're not looking at it like, oh, I guess I'll be a welder because that's all that's left. It's like, no, I'm good at anything I try. I'm going to try this, and I want to be good at this. And those are dream students to have, and they end up being dream employees, right?
Yeah. And they see the opportunity that's there before them. I love getting those kids in the program that, like, you got to pry them out of the booth at the end of the day. And, like, they're smart, they're intelligent, they're respectful. You don't have to go chase them down. They don't have attendance issues. They want to be there. And they make great employees at the end of the day. And, but I mean, they get scooped up like
before they're done.
They graduate.
Yeah, before they're done.
I tell everybody, like, right before the program kicks off, day one orientation, like, as we get closer towards graduation, once you guys and gals completely understand what you're doing and you're getting ready to graduate and head out, into the real world, I get calls from employers, and never once has somebody called me up and said, hey, I need your second or third best student. They want number one. So like, today is like day one of a 20-week competition. Yes, you're all buddies and friends and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you're all going to be competing for the same job.
Yeah.
So you need to go out there and be your best. Show up every day. Be willing to learn. Leave your problems at the door. Leave your attitude issues at home. Come in with a good, fresh, positive attitude, and, put in 100%. And you're going to go far in this industry.
Yeah. And it's interesting, because sometimes you have students you try to resurrect, you try to be the Phoenix teacher, right? Like, you have a student that comes back a year later being like, I can't find a job, and you're like, okay, I'm in between courses, I got a few days, come on in, won't charge you anything, come into the school. We all do it as teachers. We try to be that savior. Come in 8:00 tomorrow morning, I'll be ready. We'll get a booth set up for you. Let's run you through some plates. Let's make sure you're good for your next job interview. Next day shows up, they're not there. They give
Crack
you
at noon.
Yeah, they show you
through the door.
Yeah, they show up at noon, and they're like, "Oh, sorry, my aunt's sister's dog had a pedicure booked, and I was late." And then you're like, "Well, your desire to help them just goes to the floor." Like, no, now I know why you can't find a job. This is indicative of the problem, because when people are trying to help you and you can't even take help well, then where do you go from there, right?
I find it really helpful when people don't show up, because you know what?
Now you don't have to worry about them.
You didn't waste my time. You didn't waste my material. You didn't waste my energy. Cool. Done.
Bye.
Like, I get it. And that happens, man. It happens so often. I would say probably so this last hiring round, we got like 176 applicants. We brought in probably 10, and 3 of them just no call, no show at all. 3, maybe 4 so I take that back. Maybe there was about 12. And like, it's bad. So I don't know, man.
Now, every shop in your area you think is going through the same thing? Like, I don't know how busy your area is for manufacturing or for welding in general, but like, here in Canada, it's like all I hear at every meeting I go, I have where I am at work, I'll have companies call up and be like, I need some welders. It's like, oh yeah, how many? 300 over the next 2 years. Well,
Yeah.
what am I supposed to do with that information? And then a week later, another company I'll be in, like, so like the marine sector right now is exploding, and it's probably the same in the coastal areas in the U.S. But right now, East and West Canada, there's like marine companies that are not only just building new, but getting old boats back up, and I'm talking naval ships or Coast Guard or military, and they're looking for like 1,000 welders over the next 2 to 3 years. Well, how do you even you're having trouble filling 4 spots. Like Kevin, like you're having trouble filling 4.
Yeah.
How does a company look at filling 1,000 or 400 or 300? Like I don't even know how to approach this. And I sit on these high level meetings where people are like, "Oh, we're going to try to fix this problem." It's like, guys, like how? Like let's be real about this. Like this is like going to take something bigger than all of us to figure out. Like,
yeah, it's I think that there is a shortage. A slight shortage. I would say there's a major shortage in good skilled people. One of my one advantage that we have, and it's a downside too, is we are close to a WTTI at Allentown, so they are a welding school and they put a lot of people out. So I don't think there's a shortage of bodies who can weld. It's I talk to other guys in the industry, and I feel like it's always like everybody's go-to mantra to be like, "Oh, it's hard to find good help." Like that's been like the story of every how's it going? Oh, it's hard to find good help. That's what everybody's been saying for the last 30 years. But I think it really, I mean, I could be just it's because I'm 35. I'm kind of new into the business game. I think it is harder from what I see that there is less really skilled people because people haven't been pushed to go to trade schools. People haven't seen the value of it. I think a lot of it is that, when I was in college and going to school, they're like, yeah, you could go out and make $100,000 a year coming right out of high school. All right, cool. Well, you get out there. No, you can make $100,000, but you got to put like a bunch of time in and you need to learn some stuff. And I feel like a lot of people were told that, because we have people who are coming in. Yeah, I'm straight out of tech school. I want $25 an hour. I want a company truck, 401k, and everything like that. And like, dude, come on. I don't know who told you. Like, you might find
Here's a broom.
Yeah. Well, like you might find a diamond in the rough, and you might find that. But that ain't us. If you want to come and you want to be a really, really good fabricator, I will teach you. But I'm not paying $25 an hour. Like, you're going to start lower. Like we'll see where you're at depending on what skills you bring to the table. But I don't know. I feel like there is a decent amount out there. So I have to say, with those 176 applications, we opened it up to the nationwide, and we had a lot of people coming who they only had pipe welding experience. They were from the gas, the gas patches and things like that. And, they were good. And honestly, we would move somebody in from somewhere else.
Their wage expectations are going to be way high though.
Yeah. And it's tough because if you've only been doing pipe welding, that's what can you, one of our tests that we have on our application is it's a picture of a railing with like 3 dimensions, and it says figure out the spacing of the pickets. And I've only, out of the 40 something people we've had come in and do tests over the last 2 years, one person has gotten that right. It's not hard. It's just math. You just need to sit there and count how many pickets and do some math and read all the dimensions correctly. But one person has gotten that right. And, trying to
me and Jason
guys,
are like, oh, God.
I know. Like, and to live it every day, I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of jaded with the hiring process. But there are people out there. I am hopeful. But hey, if you're looking for a job, we're hiring.
I can always pick out. I can always pick out who's going to do well in my program, because I'll tell them, within the first week of class, every day you come in here, you need a tape measure on you, and you need to get a good construction master calculator. And by week 3, I can see who's going to do well because they have the tape measure on their side, and they've got the construction master calculator. And I tell them, you're going to need this every single day in school, and you're going to need it once you get out in the field. And I can see the rest of them, they're borrowing somebody's tape measure, or, they ask me, hey, how big is this? Can I borrow your tape measure? No, you should have one. That is like basic. Like for $9, you can get a seriously good freaking tape measure. Invest in that. So you can always pick them out right away. And then I love the students that like, here's the bare minimum tools you're going to need. And by next week, you know, they've got a freaking rolling tote just full of shit, you know, clamps and squares and, you know, everything that they need. And you're like, okay, you're going to go far. You're going to do well in this industry because you're investing in yourself. You know, you're taking the simple directions that I gave you with, and you're running it. You know, you're going above and beyond what's actually required. Those are the ones that are going to do awesome.
Yeah. I remember having a student years ago, and, you know, first couple days of school, it's like, there's the kids that got money and they're all like buying the new tools and the new helmets. And there's always that buzz in the air of starting a new program. And it's, you know, pretty fun. And I had this one kid, and I knew, like, as an instructor, you kind of know backstories on some of your students that no one else knows. And they were like, they're on like a grant, right? Like they're poor kid from like rural, kind of like no support, actually a foster kid, like, so no, not even parents. Right. And second day of school, they rolled in with like a beat up toolbox and clamps, tape measures, markers, pencils, soapstones, but like broken. And I was like, oh yeah, where'd you get this? Oh, I had to go to like 3 different shops in my neighborhood, and I asked if anyone could give me some of their old tools that I could use for school. And so, you know, the mechanic gave me some clamps, and then the construction guy down the street gave me a square and some soapstones. And I was like, this is the kid that makes $1 million, because obstacles mean nothing. Obstacles mean nothing, right? He's got $0 in his pocket, and sure, his tools didn't come brand new, but he's got every single one and more, because guess what? The people that gave him tools were like also proud of this kid, being like, damn, you do what
you're going to make it.
Go get
you
it,
don't
man.
Have the
go get it.
You're going to go out and figure it out. You're going to jump that obstacle onto the next thing.
That's right.
No barriers.
Nothing. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, we all cap ourselves. And I mean, I had to learn that lesson myself. And I always tell people, like, you are where you put yourself. If you're not happy with your situation, yo, man, that's on you. 100%. Yeah, we can all have bad bosses, bad employees, whatever it is. But if you aren't happy with where your is sitting right now, there's only one person that put you there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So. Oh.
Uh-oh.
All right, I've been doing too much talking. Who's got the next question? Kevin, you interview us. Give us some of your questions. This was the big setup.
So, Jason, what is your next moves with the Arc Junkies podcast? I see you've been doing your shorts and stuff like that. What's your long-term goal with it?
I haven't sat down and thought about it. I haven't thought it through. I would like to kind of pull the pin on, you know, what I've done or what I'm, you know, like my full-time gig, and go 100% in the podcast. I think my next biggest thing, you know, I've already started this year doubling the episodes, you know, so like I said, I doubled down, released just the Tip Tuesday. But I think the next thing is like getting my studio set up in the backyard, and maybe doing some Twitch or live streaming, or, you know, different events like that, maybe some Instagram lives, kind of venturing into that area. I thought about doing some YouTube stuff, but like the more stuff that I try to do, the more time it takes away from everything else. So like trying to maintain that work-life balance. So I think just for this year, probably just getting the studio set up, you know, releasing the 2 episodes a week, and just kind of, I don't want to say coasting, but like letting that settle in. Mm-hmm. Like that was my big move for 2022. And I'm not big on setting New Year's resolutions or anything like that, but that was kind of like a goal, and it just kind of happened at the right time. So I was like, yeah, I'll wait till the beginning of the year, and I'm going to launch that. So I think this year, just get the new studio set up, keep cranking out the episodes that I have. I do want to do some more traveling this year. So I've got a lot of gigs I've already got booked. I'm doing some stuff with the American Welding Society. So I'm going down there for their Instructors Institute again as a guest, you know, I guess, you know, do some lecturing and do some podcasts while I'm down there. The following week, I'm going to do the Leadership Symposium. I've got the Kentucky Welding Institute welding competition I'm going to in April. March, I'm going to Ink the Bay out in Tampa. It's a big tattoo convention that, you know, a bunch of welders are getting together, and we're going to set up a big tent. I'm going to do podcasts and welding down there. And you know, Fab Tech's coming up. I'm going to try and hit up Skills USA, maybe Can Weld. So I think just doing a little bit more traveling, trying to get the name out, you know, building the brand, putting things together, and just kind of see where that goes this year. And then probably about November, I'll sit down and have a real hard conversation with myself as to where do you want to go next? Because I know I just want to keep getting bigger and better and pushing myself harder. And I think that's just I don't know, me mentally, I like it when things are difficult, and I just want to push it and kind of see where it goes. But I really don't have an end goal or an end game in mind with this. Like, it was when Jimmy passed the podcast off to me, it was like, caught me off guard completely. And I've just kind of been growing and doing everything organically. So I've never really had an end goal in mind. It's been a lot of fun. I've been able to help out a lot of people. I've been able to talk to a lot of awesome people in the industry that I probably would have never met had it not been for the podcast. So I just want to kind of see where it goes organically. I don't really have an end goal or an end game in mind as of yet. This time next year, maybe.
Gotcha. So this time next year, when you have that hard conversation with yourself in November, what do you think are going to be some of the avenues that you could take with?
I would definitely say like the Twitch aspect, maybe like I said, doing the different lives or adding a video component to it. I think that's going to be cool. The biggest thing is like, I've got to make it worth my while. So I have to figure out different ways to monetize it. Like I'm at a point in my life where it's nice to have nice things. It's, I'm a father, I'm a husband. It's nice to be able to get things, for the kids for Christmas. I work in education, so it's not like that's a big cash cow or anything. And one conversation I had with my uncle a while back, he said, what you need to do is set yourself up for success in the form of make sure you have multiple non-competing sources of revenue. So I was like, okay, so if I could figure out a way to monetize the podcast through like sponsorships or doing Twitch or different live events or whatever, I know I don't want to do like a membership based thing or, Patreon or premium subscription shows or anything like that. I don't want to do that because I think the information should be accessible to everybody. Case in point, like the student that, Max was just talking about, being able to provide somebody like that, he didn't have the money to go out and buy tools and a tape measure and stuff like that. So he's not going to have money for, to pay for a membership for a premium subscription on a podcast to find out more information about welding. This information should be free, and I like collecting the information and then giving it to the masses. So I just got to figure out different ways to capitalize it. So I think that would be one of the parts of the conversation is kind of sitting down and figuring out how I can monetize this whole thing and make it worth my while to be investing the amount of time that I put into it.
Awesome. Max, you were going to say something. I think I interrupted you.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting because I've had those same thoughts. I think probably all three of us have had kind of same thoughts. We're always kind of looking at different angles to do things. But what I learned in the last year, I would say especially, is that I don't think I'm cut out for like the YouTube channel game, and I've learned that through my podcast, interviewing people on the podcast that have a really strong YouTube following, or even like their company runs on YouTube. They make money off of their YouTube brand and their channel and their videos and stuff like that. And I don't know if I'm that person. I don't know. I got a weird block, and it's a me thing where I enjoy my career. I like my career as a welder, and I try to carry that passion for welding into the podcast. I take that passion of welding into teaching and into my job at the CWB, but I don't know if that translates that well for YouTube, and maybe it does, but I haven't figured that out yet. I don't know how to do that. I find that when I watch most YouTube channels, I'm that guy who's like, I wouldn't have done it like that, or or like, what do they know? Because like, and this is totally an unfair thing, but it happens to me, and I think it happens to a lot of people who've been in the trade a long time, is that I've done the grunt work. I've pushed the broom for years. I grinded. I was on the dumb end of a grinder for years. I had to crawl my way up through the industry over years, decades. And then you watch a person doing a YouTube video who's never actually been a welder, never been under the gun, never actually had to do, that 20 years of grinding it out. And they're, telling me how to do this. And they probably do it better than me, to tell you the truth. They probably do. But I have this like weird block where it's like, I don't want to be told by someone who hasn't had to grind it out like I have, which might be unfair, right? So it's a weird thing to think. And like and I don't even know where I'm going with this, but it's just like something in my head that stops me from wanting to do that.
Then is the negative comments of things and really being, the internet keyboard jockeys. Yeah, I could totally see that.
I'll tell you one thing. If either of you start up a YouTube channel, you have no business going down to the comment section. I'm gonna tell you straight up from experience, because I did the same thing. Like, as an educator, you want to help people. So when I did all the videos with Weld.com, I'd go down to the comment section and try and help people. Like, here's, they'd ask, hey, what type of, product is that? Or how did you figure that? Like, I'd go in there and start, trying to help them out. And you get through 20, 30 conversations and you're like, yeah, or comments, you're like, okay, yeah, everything's going good. And then you get that one negative comment, and it throws you off. And you're like, you know what? Screw it. You guys don't appreciate what I'm trying to do. And like, you just get mentally inside your head. And that's exactly what they're there for.
Mm-hmm,
I mean, it's a troll. And you can't respond back to them, because then you're just adding fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
But yeah, just stay out of the comment section. I know the dude, Sam, the cooking guy, that we built that grill for him. That was one thing that he does. He doesn't read any of his comments. They post the video, they leave the comments open. You can make all the comments you want. He had to force himself not to read the comments. After the first few videos he put out, he's like, yep, I don't belong here. I'm just going to put out the content. You like it or you don't. You guys can figure it out. Just, stay out of the comment section.
Yeah, we just did a release of videos through CWB because obviously the company wants to get in on the video game, but I'm like, it's not me, because I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that guy. So we brought in some of our paid influencers. We're paying influencers, and they're awesome, so let's get them to do some videos. So we did a set with Adam, one on stainless and one on pipe that just came out. And we just turned the comments off. We're like, just shut them off. We don't even know. Because also, I don't want my influencers that we're trying to support and bring up. These are young, cool people in industry that we're trying to really support them and help them grow their brand as well. They don't need that negativity. And it's like, why do we even have comments open? Just shut it off. Like, either you watch it or you don't. Like, whatever. But I know some people love the comment sections on the positive side, not just negative. And they're like, why aren't the comments open? Because we want to contribute to the conversation. It's like, that's a tough line to walk. Like,
just leave them on and walk away. Just stay out of the comment section.
Yep. Now, it's funny because, Jason, I actually got hooked up with Weld.com to start making videos for them. And they actually require us to actually go in there and monitor for the first couple hours.
Yeah.
And it's going to be tough because I've got thick skin where I don't really care what you say, but I know it's going to be like, oh man, I'm going to type it out. I want to hit send, but
type it out and delete it. I've played that game quite a bit.
Type it out and delete it and think about it for a couple hours. But
I actually had a conversation with, and it's anybody that's into social media or YouTube or creators or anything like that. The maker space on YouTube is just a really tight knit community. So I had the opportunity while I was with Weld.com to go up and meet A-Bomb 79, Adam Booth. Mm-hmm. And one of the best pieces of information he gave me is he's like, like the crew that he works with, or not works with, but like hangs out with. He said, what you do is you just come up with like a 7 or 8 character word. It's just a made up fictitious word, right? And it means it's completely arbitrary and it means absolutely nothing. And then when somebody makes a negative comment, you type it out and you hit send. And it means absolutely nothing.
Flibberdoodle.
It's like you're sending emotion, and you've responded to the comment, so you got that out of your system, and they have no idea what the hell it means. They get it and they're like, "What the hell's this?" And now they're completely caught off guard. So you just throw them like just some random
trolling the trolls.
Yeah, you're trolling the trolls. They're like, "Oh, this has got to mean something." And now it's ingrained in their head. They're like, "Oh, it's got to be an acronym for something," trying to figure it out. But like, you've got off your chest and it's just like a bleh, you're done. And then you just move on to the next one. Like, I handled that guy. And I thought that was freaking brilliant. If you're going to respond to somebody, it's just, completely arbitrary, and it's going to piss them off even more because they have no idea what it means.
Can your 6 or 8 letter word be your mom? Can just reply to everything your mom?
It could be. It could be.
Then they're going to think that you're 13.
Yeah,
that's okay.
So Max, you're up on everything that's coming out in the next couple of years with with your role in the CWB. What are you most excited for in the next couple of years coming up in the welding industry?
So the biggest thing that I'm pumped about right now is our education platform that we just rolled out. I know it's going to take a while for it to gain steam, and I've got the company kind of invested. The first month we didn't have a great uptake, but these things take time. But basically, every month we got free courses running out for membership. Like you guys, your employees, you guys can all sign up for CWB memberships right now. and you can get in on the free Excel and the free Word and the free PowerPoints and the free office training. And so every month we're rolling out 2 to 3 free courses. Now, that's got me pumped because I feel like that's something that industry asked me for. Like my membership was like, yo, we want training. Okay. I busted my ass off, my staff for like a year to work on this to get this rolling. Now it's getting people to buy into it and use it. Because if people don't use it, it's going to be hard for me to justify spending the money I'm spending on it to make it roll. If the seats aren't filled, it'd be like running a college with no students. It's like, well, that's not going to last for very long. So that's one of the biggest things that's got me excited because I feel like that's a legacy product. So like when I think about developing things, and I learned this a long time ago from a mentor that I had, was like build something that'll last past you, whether it's an idea or a product, right? So if you were to die at the end of the creating this thing, can the next person just come in and keep rolling with it? That means it's a successful thing, right? But if it dies with you and no one else can figure out how to run it, or it just ends, then it actually wasn't that successful. It was just you forcing it to work, right?
Yep.
So this program, it's like, okay, well, what if I get fired from CWB next year or 3 years from now? Hopefully this is something that'll just go on forever. It'll just be part of industry, investing, because that's one of the things. Is like Lincoln now, we can go like to say one of the big companies or any company and say, we can sell you ad spots for the website. We can sell you ad spots, the marketing game where it's like whatever. But now we can say you can buy actually seats to educate the general public. And that's never been done before. We're the first professional association that's ever done that. And this is the big experiment. So like, hey, Lincoln, you want to actually put your money where your mouth is, or Miller or ESAB or Feronius, and you say you care about the welding industry? Well, instead of giving us 15 grand to sell the new Vertex or the new Pipeworks Pro, put 10 grand into the education program. And guess what? You're going to educate 100 welders this year on upskilling their careers. And that's for real. Like, I mean, now you're actually affecting the community at the grassroots by helping people with their careers going forward. And let me tell you, they're not going to forget who paid for that class. They're going to appreciate it, right? And so this is the connection I'm trying to make. It just started. It's not like rolling 1,000%. It's definitely a work in progress. The other thing that I'm really looking to figure out how to do over the next year or so is how to get the concept that welding is a all-encompassing trade. And what I mean by that is that if I go to become a lawyer, okay, well, why do people want to become a lawyer? Why? Okay, every parent tells their kid you should be a lawyer. Okay, well, why? Because it's a good paying job. Okay. Because you'll always have work. Okay. Because you have an association and a career that people will respect. Okay. You have like these check boxes that are listed off. I want to figure out how to make welding be a part of that same conversation, that every checkbox is checked, and getting that message out there that it's like, okay, why do I want to be a welder? Well, because I have a good professional association that's going to ensure I have training for life. I have skills and benefits. I have upskilling programs. I have work access. I have mobility. And there are a lot of things that I think, maybe figure out in our careers over time that we know and we try to tell our students or the people we know. But how do I get this message into the grade 10s, grade 9s? And I think that we try to just talk the talk, but let's actually like walk in with the programs built. Like, this is the step. Just do this, this, and this, and you're in. And I think that would make parents feel better about the conversations. I think that would make teachers feel better about the conversations. Because if I walk into my local high school and I say, hey, tell your kids to be welders, they'll be like, okay, how? Well, they don't know that. They don't know that. What do you mean how? How what? It's like, well, let's make this easy because I want to change the whole stigma around the trades. Like, I mean, the next 50 years of our society is going to need tradespeople like never before. And so, 1,000 years ago, the cathedral builders, the bridge makers were highly respected individuals of society. The farriers, the cart makers, highly respected, above doctors and lawyers because they make the world go round. We need to figure out how to get that respect back. And it's on us, and it's, us speaking properly, us writing proper emails, us not throwing temper tantrums and throwing plates around the shop. It's these things that we let go for a long time, like 50, 60 years of boomers and Gen Xers kind of ruined the trades by making it look like a dirty, grumpy, jerky trade. And it doesn't need to be. It can be a clean, friendly, well-educated trade. Right? It doesn't need to be this ugly thing. And I grew up in the ugly world, and I don't even mind it. I roll fine in that world. But selling it to Gen Zs, it's not about me. It's about them. right? I can't go to Gen Zs and be like, you need to learn to be gruff and not care and be rude. No, I need to learn to not be rude and not gruff and respectful. Like, I mean, they're the future, not me. I'm the past already. So I got to cater to where they're going to be, not where I was, right?
Yeah. I see that a lot because the people who are on, the TV personalities from the welding industry, they get a lot of flack for, you're not a real welder, blah, blah, blah. I think it's really awesome that they're out there showing people what can be done, what welding can do. Granted, are they going to get a job making artistic stuff? Probably not, but they can do that on their own free time. But it is bringing it is glorifying welding a little bit in the correct light, and I really appreciate seeing that out there and people being like, oh man, maybe I should go to tech school to learn how to weld, because that's how I first got into it. I was 7th grade, I believe. We had a place around here called Peddler's Village. It was filled with a bunch of little shops where you can go around and just to buy homemade stuff, artistic stuff. And I saw there was animals made out of like garden tools that were welded together, and that fascinated the crap out of me. And I was like, that is the coolest thing. And my parents were like, why don't you go to tech school for welding? I wasn't old enough at the time, but I'll tell you, when the time came around, that's, I went into tech school for welding. And if it wasn't for, whatever that spark is that gets people into it, they'd be like, oh, wow, maybe all welders aren't just, a bunch of grumpy old men out there and who talk like sailors. So I think that's, grabbing the net, whatever you can do to get the next generation interested and show them that this is a respectable trade and you can make good money. I'm really all for that too. So that's awesome.
Yeah. And like, I mean, you got to look at the demographics too, like the LGBTQ community, women, immigrants, newcomers, they're all coming, especially newcomers. They're coming to Canada or the US, and they got big dreams about, they have expectations from family back home to make money and to do stuff. And so they're coming here thinking doctor, lawyer, all these things too. It's like, no. We actually would really prefer if you got into welding, like right off the freaking plane, because we need you, and we know newcomers can bust ass. And like, I mean, they got a lot of pressure on them to produce from their history, their background. So, why aren't we pulling them in? And I mean, I think we're trying to, as North America, we're trying to get that message out, but I don't know how well we're selling it yet. Like, I mean, if you really look, and like, I actually asked the instructor this last year. I said, how many openly gay or lesbian students have you had in the last few years? And they're like, oh, I don't know. It's like, well, why don't you know? You don't. I guarantee you there's been some. I guarantee you, just statistically, I guarantee you've had people from the LGBTQ community in your classes. And the reason you didn't know is because they didn't feel safe. They didn't feel safe enough to tell people. They didn't feel safe enough to communicate their personal life in the setting. Even though everyone else is safe to talk about what they did on the weekend and their boyfriends or their girlfriends, they never said a word about their personal life because they weren't safe. Now, how well is that person going to feel about their job going out of school, right? When everyone else is in the lunchroom talking about their personal life and they can't, right? So just because they didn't tell you doesn't mean they're not there. So what can we do to make this a space where it's like, it's okay, for a dude to talk about his boyfriend in class? We care. Cool. What'd you do? We went to the movies. Awesome. Which movie? Right? Like, I mean, that's we're not there yet. Like, and I don't think I don't even know if we're really that close yet. I think we're kind of far behind on that one.
Yeah.
I think it's just changing the whole social stigma around blue collar trades in general. Like you said, you got a lot of grumpy old, boomers that are getting out of the industry, and as educators, I mean, we're in a position to train the next generation of welders. Like you don't have to, it doesn't have to be dark, dirty, and dangerous. You got people welding in clean rooms, like highlight some of that. And I think that's the cool thing about social media, is because now people can get on there and they can see people from all walks of life, different, religions, orientations, genders, like all that, like they can see that, and they can see the work that they're producing, So, I mean, just pushing out better educated welders, working on soft skills, and then showcasing a lot of this stuff on social media so that everybody can see it worldwide.
Yeah, I really agree with that. It's funny. We have Jamie in our shop, she is a woman. So I love the fact that she is really good at the detail work, stuff that guys overlook is, is the minute details. She's into it. She remembers things. She's really good at what she does. And you know what? When we were hiring, we were really seeking out finding women to do the spiral staircases because their attention to detail, it's just inherent in their DNA. They're, there are guys who are good at attention to detail, but we tried to hire two of them to build the spiral staircases because they are intricate. And, I think giving that opportunity and showing people that this isn't only a male dominated field is actually really important, because women have a lot to contribute to the workforce, even in the welding industry.
I like getting female students in the class because, like you said, the attention to detail, the ability to follow instructions, hand-eye coordination, like all that stuff. And they typically, by and large, do very well in the program. And then it's very easy to place them because employers are starting to catch on that, okay, the fine detail work and stuff like that, they just fit better.
Mm-hmm. And the creativity, we kind of put that aside. It's like, oh, women are more artistic, and there tends to be a lot more women looking at welding in terms of the art scene or being artsy. And I think manufacturing companies, especially the large manufacturing companies I work with, are seeing that artistic creativity translates to production, because having women control the layout of a production cell or an area gives them kind of the ability to think outside the box. Why don't we move this machine there? Why don't we set this up here? Why don't we look at setting this area up better? And just like how just organizing the general space, and I've worked with women that are like, just look at an area and be like, oh, why is this not like that? That doesn't make sense. It's like, wow, I never even thought of that. Like, geez, duh.
That's just where we put it to get it out of the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot to that. Like form follows function, doing like a proper shop layout and stuff like that. Organizing. I tell the students in the program, like a clean shop is a productive shop. Mm-hmm. So if you're constantly tripping over cords and cables and tools and stuff like that, stop, take a minute, reorganize everything, set everything up to where everything's within an arm's reach, and you can, just reach across and grab things. I mean, if you're working in a bigger shop, then you got to walk around. Like I used to put stuff on a cart, and everything was laid out specifically on a spot on the cart. And I just drag it around, doing railings and stairs and stuff like that. All my tools, I got like a little mobile table with me. Mm-hmm. So everywhere I go, and I'm not tripping over anything. Run things overhead when you can, extension cords, airlines, all that stuff. I mean, obviously you got to drag your leads around everywhere, but maybe, I facilitate things to where I only have to step over the cord once and in one specific spot, instead of dragging everything and making big loops and all that stuff. And just maintain, some sense of organization, and you're going to be a lot more productive, and you're going to increase your productivity rates.
I was talking to one of the HR ladies at my company, and I was like, how is the world of HR for hiring right now? And she's like, well, it's a very interesting thing that's happening with the new hires coming into, larger scale companies, is that at the hiring process, we'll say to the person applying, why do you see yourself working here? Or what, the generic HR questions, what do you bring to the company? Blah, 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 blah. But she said one of the biggest differences she sees is that then as soon as they're done, the person applying will say, now what is the company going to do for me? Right. And that's something that didn't really happen in my generation. We didn't ask that question. We were just like, thank you for the job. I'm going to go with this as far as I can. And if I don't like it, I'll bounce. Right. Kind of just the way we looked at it. But now I think the newer generations, it's more savvy, right? They're more savvy, and they have the world of information at their fingertips. So you can't lie to them. They can just Google it instantly and know you're full of BS. So they're coming to the table saying, okay, yeah, you asked me why I'll be good for you. Now you tell me why you'd be good for me. Right? Where do you see me in your company in 5 years? And I mean, that's, I think, throwing a lot of places for a loop, because, and Kevin, you brought this up earlier. It's like, it's a two-way street with your employees. Like, yeah, I want to make you better, but, do you want to be better, or do you want to make the company better? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that two-way street is really, really important. And a lot of people have been afraid to ask and stand up for themselves. And I think that has always been a stigma for a long time, but I am as open book as I can be with the people who work for us and the people who want to work for us. And I tell them, I'm like, look, I, as a person, want to pay you as much as I can, but you need to justify it because, you know, I forget who said it. I think it was Adam from Maker Table, who I was talking to. He said, we're not a family here. We're a team. And you have to pull your weight on the team or else you get cut. And I want to, you know, some of the team members get paid really, really well because they train and they're really, really good. And some of them don't get paid as much because they're just kind of there. But we, like, a rising tide floats all boats. So how about we all do our best to get in there? And yes, I think compensation in a lot of different aspects, we like to do compensation other than money. You know, stupid things like, do you like energy drink? You know, do you like Coca-Cola? Do you like sodas? Like, and it's small stuff like that where it doesn't cost, you know, granted, it costs us a couple bucks a day, but it makes the work environment so much better for everybody else. And I think, you know, doing things other than just straight up cash in some people just like straight up cash in the pocket, and we are okay with that. But we have to know that that's almost still like their love language is cash bonuses rather than like just being flexible and taking the day off. You know what I mean? And I think it's important. The only way to know that is to talk that out with your employees so that you can, or your team. I hate the word employees. So you can talk it out with your team members and know what that is. And it's important to have that open dialogue and that conversation before you start working there and during the and, you know, while the time you're there.
He's definitely into the Chick-fil-A because that's what they call their people. They're not employees, they're team members. So he's got the whole business model down pat. Max, kind of going back to what you were saying with HR, we actually started interviewing our students coming into the program, you know, because like you've been a welding instructor for quite some time. I want to make sure that, you know, the program is a good fit for them, but they're also a good fit for the program. And that's one thing we ask at the end of the interview. Do you have any questions for us? And like you were saying, like a lot of them, you know, they're yes, you know, am I going to learn this? You know, how long, you know, what are your expectations on performance? What, you know, like they've got questions loaded up in their heads. And then, you know, once we're done, I'll give them a tour of the shop. I answer the questions to the best of my ability, and I don't BS them. You know, and then I'll even let them walk out into the shop and talk to some of the current students and say, hey, go ask them some of the questions, like get immediate feedback from, you know, a peer, somebody that's like currently in the process. They're not trying to actively recruit you for the program. Go see what their experience is all about, you know? So maybe that's something you could do in addition to, you know, the interviews that you're conducting, is make sure that they're a good fit for your team. You know, put them out on the shop floor, let them talk to some of the guys and gals that are out there currently working. You know, I mean, not interrupt productivity, but I mean, at least they get firsthand information on what's, you know, what they can expect.
Yeah, like it's like a tour, right? Like at the college, we do a career in welding every year with the high schools, where it's like, you know what, we're going to pay to bring on all the high school trades programs, and we have a couple students volunteer from each section of the shop to keep it kind of like running like it's a normal day at school, and it's after hours, and we supply pizza. And then all the students will come in and actually get to talk to the students, not us, teachers, just like walk around. They'll show you what they're working on this week and their welding, blah, blah, blahs, and fire some sparks, and everyone, here's hoods for everybody. And ask the students, exactly. Ask them what it's like, what they like about the program, blah, blah, blah. And because peer-to-peer matters. Like, I mean, I'm a position of authority. I'll tell you it's awesome, but I'm also paid to tell you it's awesome. You know, like...
Yeah. Go get an unbiased opinion from some of the people that are, you know, out there in it every day.
Yeah. All right, guys, I gotta cut it. I'm getting called here, so I'm getting close to the end of my time here. So, Kevin, you got any final questions for us? I mean, you guys can continue talking if you want, but I gotta balance.
No, I'm good. I think this time was awesome, man. I really appreciate you guys.
So, are you guys?
Likewise, I really enjoyed chatting with you.
Are you guys going to be at FabTech Atlanta?
Oh yeah.
I'm definitely going.
Yeah, you guys going to be in Mexico? I'm not going to Mexico.
I'm not going to swing that one.
Oh.
No Mexico.
I'd love to, but yeah, I can't go to that one.
I'm going to Denver in March here for the NASCC, the North American Steel Construction Convention. You guys know about that one? You going to that one?
I haven't heard of that one.
The heckin'? It's like
when is that?
March 23rd 23rd, 24th in like a month.
Yeah, I can't do that one. I got Inked Bay the following weekend.
Oh yeah.
Or that weekend.
All right. Cool. Well, I've loved this, guys. This has been super fun, and we should do this like biannually, something like that.
I was thinking like once a month, man. Let's crank up them numbers.
Yeah, but you want to have like 600 episodes a month, man. You're crazy.
Yeah, double down, man.
Well, let's say every couple, I mean, maybe quarterly. I'll go with quarterly.
There we go. We can do a quarterly podcast. We got the first quarter. We got Q1 taken care of. We'll hit it up for Q2.
Awesome, man.
Let's get some listener questions so that we can talk about something.
Yeah, we can kind of drive it up. Maybe do like a Instagram Live or Twitch or something like that. By that time, I might have all the gear set up to run that.
All right, guys. Well, I really appreciate you guys taking the time. This has been super, super fun. A lot of really great content, and I can't wait to do it again with you guys. I really want to get together at FabTech. Let's talk there. Let's just do something else again some other time, because I think this is super valuable. There's going to be a lot of people who gain a lot of value out of this, and I appreciate you guys. Appreciate what you guys do for the industry, and thank you.
Oh, likewise, man. It's been an honor, talking to both of you, meeting you both in person at FabTech last year. Looking forward to linking up FabTech this year. And then, like we were just chatting about, maybe we could make this like a quarterly event.
Yeah, I know it's been super fun, and I'm sure I'll see you guys at events and hopefully get you guys up into Canada. Hopefully, CanWeld's coming up in June with FabTech. So, I'd love to see you guys up here and give you some Canadian love.
Yeah, I got the dates, man. We'll see if we can make it happen.
All right.
I'll be up there camping with you.
Yeah, It's first week of July, so right after I think it's the second week of July. All right, awesome. Well, thanks a lot, guys, and we'll stay in touch.
All right, sounds good, guys. Talk to you soon.
We hope you enjoyed the show.